The type of attention you get and who you get it from determines where we end up in life.
We got!
This has already been accepted at the University of Texas in Austin, electrical
In a
engineering.
community where the statistics aren't the best, the default isn't the best either.
The gentleman who's going to be on the field representing South San,
Defensive captain of the varsity football team.
Mr. Jesus Rendon.
His life to giving back to this community.
St. Joseph's Catholic Church Choir.
So I decided to start a nonprofit called Building a Purpose.
And if we can raise that default to be something of higher standards,
Help students find their purpose in life.
I think we can do something
We need!
special by default.
Welcome to the Jesus Rendon podcast, where we talk about life, purpose, and God. Our next guest here is Claudia Villarreal, who is the owner agent of Condra Artista Model and Talent Agency. They are a San Antonio-based agency that promotes actors of all ages,
That's right.
commercial and film opportunities. She's a San Antonio native, a Jefferson High School graduate, a University
Go
of
Mustangs.
Texas graduate,
Go Longhorns.
and more importantly, she's a mentor for our organization, Building a Purpose. Claudia, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This is really nice.
Awesome. So, how's life? What's new? What's popping right now?
What's popping? Life personally, very busy. Professionally, we have that new SB 22 that was passed, so we're very excited for all our local, not just local, statewide, and all our actors in general that can really benefit from this new bill.
What's in that bill that would help?
There's just some really good incentives and more money available, so that way productions can come to San Antonio. Anytime that there's any production, there's really, it really rolls out to other locals. So whether that's craft, that's hair and makeup, it really just expands. So it's a really good for all of Texas.
Okay, so it maybe fosters a little bit more of a lucrative environment for people who want to do film to come to Texas to do it.
It really does, yeah.
Okay.
So it's good for, from everybody across the board. So, but we represent actors, so of course we're excited for our actors.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, because your journey to become an agent owner in this agency didn't start out in acting, did it?
It didn't. I did graduate from UT Austin, and I had to have Longhorns. I had to have some degree, right? I had a lot of bills to pay. I didn't have very much money. And so I landed on physical therapy. So I do have a degree in physical therapy. I went to graduated from UT Austin. Then I went to the Health Science Center. And
Awesome.
I graduated from there, and I have my degree in physical therapy. So I did do that for many years. And I didn't realize really how creative I was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is a journey, right?
Right.
We're all kind of growing. But when I was in my 20s, I loved kind of just doing whatever. Like if there were films that came through town, I would want to be an extra, or I did like a modeling class, and I did some fun, cool stuff, but it didn't pay anything. It was just fun because I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But then having kids, my daughter wanted to get into acting. My son wants to, he loves film. So it kind of pulled me back in. And I'm kind of going around, long story short. With them they were accepted to a talent agency. And then, they always want to pull in family. So I got pulled in that respect. We did that for a few years. My daughter was about 12 and my son was about 8.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. So we did the whole journey. We would go up to Austin and do auditions and get stuck in the traffic. It was the whole process of that. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. And then with some other things that happened in my life, I just came upon this agency. It just kind of worked out well, timing, when it went for sale. And I thought, this is something I really want to do. So it's been wonderful ever since. It really has.
Well, I bet you learned a lot being a parent of a child actor, right? And being very involved with the agent, knowing, okay, this is something I like and something I don't like, or so maybe that helped coach you along the way to be the type of agent you'd want for your kids, huh?
Yeah, exactly, because I do understand what parents have to navigate. It is a little bit different now, but kind of the same sentiment. The parents want to do their best for their kids. They want to support their kids. That's where I was. And so
Right.
I feel like I really understand from their perspective when they're coming in seeking like representation for their younger kids. And but again, across the board, I really enjoy the process. And we have actors of all ages, like I think you mentioned earlier. So it really is, everybody is at a different stage of their journey, and so we try to be there to support that.
That's awesome. I love how you mentioned that it's actors of all ages, right? Because sometimes when people enter something they've never done before, they're trying to be something they've never been before. They often think, oh, I'm too young, or oh, I'm too old,
Right.
I'm past my prime, or I didn't have enough training. I didn't have. There's plenty of reasons why they can't try to do it, but
Right.
but having that entry is welcoming, to say the least.
Yeah, and I think everybody kind of goes through, again, their journey, and some, like myself, I really enjoyed it, but I didn't see it. I never had it in the back of my mind I would have a talent agency. That's not something that would ever cross my mind.
Right.
It's the journey for me. But for others, they might have dabbled when they were younger. They did a few things, and now they're calling me their 50s, 60s. Like, I don't know if there's anything out there for me, but I really enjoyed it, and I'd like to. I have more time now. So we get those kinds of talent as well. But we really do have, in addition to talent of all ages, we have talent like of different levels. We have some really good talent that have been doing this. This is their career.
Profession.
This is their profession. We have others that come to us. They want to. They have training, or they're kind of starting a little bit of the process. And although the business is very, it's a tough industry.
It's competitive.
It's very competitive. So we look at everybody, and we just kind of try and help people navigate kind of where they are. What do they need to do? Maybe some are ready and we feel like we can help them. Maybe some need a little more time, and that's okay too. That's still a part of the journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I love that. And if you know, because we do this workshop with our mentors and our students, but we tell them they all have their own timeline, right?
Exactly.
And there is no true formula that it should be this way. It's your timeline. When you get there, you'll get there.
That's right.
You do as much planning, and you're as disciplined as you can be.
That's right.
And intentional with purpose, but you're on your own timeline. Some things you can't control, and you work with what you've got. So no, I love that. What's one thing that really makes a difference from the top 1% performers in the acting industry?
I mean, I think, you have to understand that, like you said, it's very competitive, but you have to do it for you. You have to be there and continue the process because it's something that you really enjoy, and you have to, just understand that when it's your time, it will come. But I just had a conversation with someone earlier today, kind of asking similar questions, like I do all this, in preparation, and you can't get discouraged. You really have to just believe in yourself, I guess. That's where it is. Believe in yourself. Yeah.
Sounds like you were also leaning towards, like, and I'm going to say finding your voice in the context of being a singer, right? It's like you really, everything seems to fall into place when singers find their voice.
That's right.
Maybe finding themselves in the acting seems to be what it is. Don't let me speak for you.
No.
You're the expert in this.
No, but you're right. But I do think it's believing in yourself, and that you're not going to give up. Even though some others around you say, you can't listen to all the voices. You have to trust in yourself.
Right. Well, it's also no wonder that so many people are doing other things at the same time, right, to make ends meet. And I think that's in one aspect that's one of the beautiful things that makes it worth it. And one of the aspects, it's one of the hard and reality things about it,
Yeah, that is reality. And again, I just had that conversation earlier today because we do have a lot of talent. I mean, the reality is it's very competitive. And the reality is you can do 100 auditions and maybe you get, 3 callbacks.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with the callback process, but it's just a stepping process to get that final booking. Like, we really want you to come in and be booked, and, where they give you all the information. That's so exciting. I get so excited for the talent every time we get a booking. But again, we do have a lot of talent that they do have a job, or they have a job that's flexible, or they work around it because this is what's in their heart. This is their passion. But, we all have the realities of what's going on in our life, that we have to do these things.
Right.
And that's, again, when I was in college, I knew I had to get a job that was, I had bills.
Yes.
I needed to do things. But at the same time, even though I didn't really realize at that time, my creative side kind of guided me back to kind of where I am today.
Where you are now.
So again, I always feel, and I always tell people, it is a journey. You just have to be confident in who you are, or grow in that. You might not be there yet. Just keep growing, keep learning. You're never there. You have to just keep moving forward.
Right. What does the next 5 years look like for your agency?
Well, I'm excited about these new things coming through for Texas. So it's going to obviously help all the agents, but for us personally, we're always looking for new talent. We're always trying to help our talent grow. You want to hold somebody's hand, but you can't force them to do anything. So it's really, we can guide you. We do need you to come in at a certain level, and we can guide you from there. But it really is the talent's journey. We're there to help them and to navigate with them, and to kind of maybe try and push them in different directions, so that way we want them to be successful, and that's our ultimate goal. But I want to grow, I want to keep going, and I want to grow with this industry and see just kind of where the next 5 years takes us. That's a very good question.
Having that 5-year goal, it's certainly is a question that you can't predict the future.
Right.
But throwing those arrows out there and having the aim, brings it to reality. And just sometimes hearing the owner's vision in it, it's contagious.
Yeah, you're right. And as far as the growing part, it's a constant change. I mean, things are constantly changing, and we have to just keep up with that. But the talent pool, we have always a steady base of our actors, but we do have people kind of come and go, and for different reasons.
Right.
It's nothing it's life. Life happens. So we're always working around that, but we're always trying to foster, new clients. I love talking with all the clients that call. We try and help everybody out where they are.
Right.
Because you can have clients that, we have this great, we have good rates for your talent. And then I have others calling like, well, we really just need people. We don't really have a whole lot to offer, but we like to at least give them an experience. So we just kind of have to navigate. And I feel like one thing kind of builds upon another and builds upon another. So we're always just trying to cultivate, new partnerships. And the other thing is where we are right now at Alamo City Studios. We're trying to grow with Alamo City, help. We're working together. It's kind of a team effort. So I'm hoping that Alamo City Studios can continue to grow as well into more like a production hub that we are, but stepping it to the next level.
Right.
And so I think that could only, help us in our journey as well.
So what advice would you have for students who are high school students who are looking on the website and want to be an actor? What advice would you have for them?
I think it's, I know not everybody has the means to take classes, right? I mean, that's obvious. But just participating in school, if they have school plays, school functions. I remember in high school, like the debate team.
Oh, yeah.
And
the debate team.
I shied away from it, and I wish I didn't, because I'm talking from a perspective as a Hispanic kid where I didn't feel very confident, and I just didn't feel comfortable speaking in front of people. And I think that's one thing that I wish somebody would have pushed me. Or even not pushed me, but suggested, even strongly suggested. Right. Get in front of people. Make sure that you're, if there's something that you really enjoy doing, even if it's sports or whatever, like go after that. Go seek that out, because people are willing to help you. I've gone to different, I think it was even, it wasn't a middle school. It was it primary? Not kindergarten, but like first, second, third graders over here in this area. And we had a little workshop, and I thought it was so wonderful. It was so much fun, where we had the kids come forward, and one took the role of starting the camera. Another one took the role of asking the question. Another one was the actor. And, it was real quick. It was very simple. But I can see, like, I've never done this before, you know? And I wish there was more of that for the kids, just more opportunities where they can just get in front of the camera, get in front of the mic and just talk. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. There's nothing happening. You know, you can't say anything right or wrong. It's just really that experience. And I don't feel like I had that experience. And I think that's really important to me that younger kids, middle school, high school, have those experiences, because that goes across the board in anything that you do in life.
So true. So true. Being able to communicate and being brave enough to stand up.
Exactly.
Especially amongst your peers.
Exactly.
Personally, I think it's harder to stand up against your peers and project yourself, right? Because it's your peers who critique you the best.
Right, because you walk away and then you hear him.
It's
like, oh, no.
Oh, he doesn't really talk like that. Why is his voice deeper now, right? Or why is he this, or why is he that?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so true.
And I do think it does start younger, too. Like, I would really love to see new things come forward. And I've tried. I've gone to different schools to just, like, just do exactly this. Just getting people up, come up and just say stuff and talk about something. It's kind of like the old show and tell, right? When you were in school.
Right.
And even then I remember being really nervous, you know? And so, yeah, I think it's just something starting young. So that way they have a good foundation to, okay, I really enjoy this and I feel confident in myself to go for it.
You bring up the show and tell. I never did show and tell. And mostly because I was in sports and I was like, that's not my thing. That's the other people's thing. And I learned what stand-up comedy was by seeing Ramiro, a kid I went to elementary school, middle school, and he starts doing George Bush impressions. And I was like, oh, is that a thing? It's that's what comedy is. And then, we found out we have like a really good singer who's maybe a year younger than us. And I mean, he sings beautiful. And it just takes that courage to get up out there and do it. And if you can do it good in front of your peers, you can do it in front of anyone.
That's right. And I think the sooner that you start, you're just building that confidence from an earlier age. And, talking about sports, I'm just going to go off to the side a little bit because I was in cheerleading. And so
Jefferson Mustang cheerleader?
Yeah, but also at St. Paul. So
at St. Paul.
St. Paul's. So I'm a Royal, a Mustang, and a Longhorn. But I think when you're in these group settings, it's still awesome and you still have, you're building confidence, but to single yourself out, that's still a different thing. And that's where, I don't know, I'm just passionate about that. So I think that kind of comes into play as a talent agent where I really want to try and help foster, maybe you're not there yet and this is very competitive, but at least even if you're not ready for an agent at this moment, I'd love to see you go out there, get a little bit of experience here and then come back.
Right. Well, there's a sense of vulnerability, right? To pull yourself out and to build up on top of that. That's character and leadership that get you to that next level. No, that's awesome. I love those qualities, and I think you're right that they're formational.
They are.
Especially in youth who are growing up, because those are traits you carry with you for the rest of your life.
That's right.
The acting scene, the talent scene here in San Antonio, is it where you think it should be?
I think we have such wonderful talent. I don't think the opportunities are here, so a lot of people will leave. I mean, the ones that are really put in the work. So we have actors that are in Los Angeles and New York.
Oh, you're U.S. wide?
Yeah, I mean, we have actors, not just here in San Antonio. So we do represent, we have a pretty good outreach across Texas and outside of Texas. But it's just hard to, like we have really good actors that live here, and it's hard for them to, they have to go elsewhere. And so that kind of ties back into these incentives. And, we're here, we have really good production. We have really good teams that can really pull things together, and they do. But, there's still a bigger pull to go to Austin or to go to Dallas. And so we're really hoping that comes through here.
Is that kind of like the ranking? You know, Dallas number 1, Austin number 2, San Antonio number 3.
I think I'm not really sure who's. I think maybe Austin and Dallas are pretty close because Dallas has a lot of the film productions going on. In Austin, they have film also, and it's really commercials. They're really getting all of those. So it's very busy. They're very busy, which is great, and I'm so happy because we get a lot of good opportunities, and some we hit and some we don't, and that's part of the game. That's okay. But I just really, I'm going to be optimistic. Like you said, the next 5 years, if we sit down in a few years, maybe it's going to be like, whoa, it really turned around. And now there's so much here to offer.
There's
San
so much
Antonio.
potential. And
there's so much potential.
That's what I wonder. Is it because the studios are over there? Is it because it's the brand name? Is it, it's...
I kind of feel like the music and film kind of ties together over there.
Music in Austin.
I mean, like the music industry and
live music capital of
I kind of think that's like they work in
tandem
a little bit. It just, I mean, here, like I said, there and people know that. People know there's a lot that they can utilize here. Land and just different location sites. But yeah, I mean, they just work in conjunction. So the production team usually will go through. If they're not familiar, they'll go through the film commissioner and like, oh, we need crew, we need a location person, we need actors. So
are they more tied in with like the municipal regulations that are like, oh, you got to shut down the street for recording. Let me take care of that.
Yeah, they can help navigate all that for you. So they're very useful, and anybody really should reach out and utilize their services. So I just feel like like I said, the potential is here, and
so much potential.
They're constantly working to, do outreaches, and like, we're here in San Antonio, come to San Antonio. And I do feel like, there is a lot of activity here as well. But again, it's, we want more.
Right. Well, we want more opportunities. Sometimes we got to make our opportunities.
That's right. Yes.
And I'm excited about, SB 20 is what you said it was? 22. Helping to foster that environment so that the opportunities can be here.
Right.
I was sharing with you, you said you're very familiar and from the neighborhood, right? Just where we're at. And I was sharing with you right here on this main corridor on what used to be its own city, South San Antonio. They've recorded a couple movies down that city here, or down this corridor.
Right.
And I know there's certainly history in the community that could be tapped into to, have a certain scene shot here, a certain scene, the 1923 scene shot downtown.
Right.
I mean, that was awesome.
That was awesome.
I'm really excited to see what the next 5 years looks like, and I'm glad you're working hard.
We're trying
to keep the movement going for San Antonio. I'm glad you're a San Antonio native doing it too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And like going back, like you said, like in the 80s, as you know, I mean, you're young. I'm a little older, but they were a lot of. It was very active, and San Antonio has always been very active in the film industry, but it kind of waned a little bit. So we're trying to
bring it back.
We're hoping that comes back. Yeah.
Yeah, bled in, bled out. I mean, But was that recorded here? I don't think so.
I'm not.
I just know the actor being.
Yeah, Jesse.
Yeah.
I love Jesse.
So, let me shift gears of how we met, and first recollection of how we met. And I will tell you, the work you're doing is working, because I've met 3 different people who have either worked with you or agents under you at different scenarios. I mean.
That makes me happy.
My daughter does. She was in the San Antonio Academy of Arts, and she was doing piano. She was singing and everything. One of the other little girl dads who was there was telling me he primarily, and he's older. I mean, he certainly wasn't somebody who got into it at a young age,
right? And
he primarily does Spanish speaking things, and I thought that was cool, and he dropped a little seed, and then I found out one of our students from Building a Purpose also was reaching out and like had wanted to know you, and then eventually came on too as an agent, Henry, and then another one of my good friends' brothers is like another one, Hiram, who's like, I mean, so I've known of you since before that through these different means and these different people. So I know you're doing great work.
Thank you.
And one of the big reason why I reached out was because there's such a big need for people to represent the arts and give good advice on what they should do. Like personally, when I give advice about me, when I was in high school, I wanted to play NFL football. Right. And why did I want to do NFL football? Because that's all I knew. I had been playing football since the 90s. And and this generation, like, whoa, that was like 100 last century, right? I mean, but I had done that for so long. By the time I was in high school, that's what I had known.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to do it, because that's what I knew. But in high school is when you need to be thoroughly evaluating fields that you don't know, so you can make a informed decision on what you want to do.
Right.
There's obviously paths to get there that are more risky and more this and that, but they don't need an engineer to tell them that. They need somebody in the field to tell them that. And I love how your career path, I mean, that's not traditional. That's what I love about.
I don't think I'm very traditional, right?
Exactly. And so when we reached out to you for the nonprofit, and you're like, oh, I love working with students. I love working. I mean, I really grateful for you extending yourselves. And to me, it's important to bring that next generation up. And the purpose of this podcast, to bridge the gap in generations. So that's the first recollection. I know I reached out to you of how we first met. But what do you hope to see in this next generation of potential actors coming in? What do you hope to see from them?
Well, first of all, I do love what you're doing, because I think it's very important. Like you said, it's exposure. How do you know that you won't know about other things unless you're exposed to it, or you have people coming in and it gives you a new idea and a new thought. I just think I like, if there's so many creative kids in our schools, and I've seen this firsthand, where maybe the school doesn't really cater to that creativity, where it's more like, it's just classes and sports, or things. Sports
especially
is huge,
in Texas, and football.
Especially in Texas, and that's perfectly fine, but not everybody. That's not in everybody's heart. We like sports. I like sports, but there's a creative side that I can see kids just really don't know what to do with their energy, and if I just want exposure for these kids, so that way they can maybe find a voice elsewhere if that's what they choose, and just having things to support them in their schools, at any age level, really. And they have those opportunities that are available out there. And coming back to an agency, a lot of people don't know that there are local agents.
I know.
A lot of people don't realize, like, what? It's not even a thought that they think, maybe I could do that, or maybe my kid can do that. And I still find it surprising. A lot of people, sometimes when I speak to them, like, I never even knew that y'all were here, that we could do this, So I would like to kind of get over that. And, if this is something that somebody wants to do, to have the means, and at least to have the access to, again, classes or just workshops and things like that, where they can at least get a taste of it and see if that's something they want to pursue, and they can go from there as they grow and they get older. Right.
The exposure, the education of the industry.
Right.
Even if it's not something they're 100% into it, but at least they're like, oh, that's how that works. I mean, I just learned, I learned the difference between pre-production, production, post-production. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense of why it's. I mean, simple words, but there's so much behind each of those steps.
There is. And I think that's the key right there, is there's so many different people that are needed for a film or even commercial to come together. So you don't have to be an actor. Like for myself, I enjoy doing things, like I said, in groups, but I'm more behind the scenes. I love being behind the scenes, and I love like doing all the busy work behind scenes. And that's where some people might want and, prefer that. So like our actors really like to be in front of the camera. They're actors. Okay. Good for you. That's not my thing.
We're not all that pretty. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not that pretty to be in front of the camera.
I really like to be behind the scenes. So that being said, for kids that are creative and maybe like this, you don't have to be an actor. You can do the camera work, you can do the miking, you can do the hair, you can do like you said, there's so many different things. You can do the computer, kids who are more computer, but that you can relate that to computer generated, whatever is needed for these for the crew and the production team and whatever the client wants, the creative side of it, the advertising side of it. So there's so many pieces that come into play. So again, the exposure that maybe me personally, I can't give you all of that other side of it, but I can tell you it's out there. And, this is just a start to kind of see what else you can look into.
Yes. No, that's perfect. Beautiful. So your with your agency, it's primarily focused on actors and models, not really directors or.
No, because you're right. Because there are some agents that will handle like scripts and different things, or musicians. It's primarily actors for. Back in the day, since COVID, things have been a little different. Right. We don't really do as much, or we don't see as much like runway or that kind of modeling anymore, because a lot of things everything's digital. But it's from industrial to like training videos, of obviously commercials. That's our bulk of the work. Film, and we do have voiceover talent. So, that's nice too. However, that kind of waxes and wanes as well. The auditions that we get in for voiceover, sometimes I feel like we're busy and we have a lot for our talent, and other times I feel like it's a little slow. And
there's seasons for
there
everything.
are seasons, definitely. And voiceover, that's just hard because someone might just, hey, come do this for me. And so, when we get a voiceover spot in our breakdowns, that's really exciting. But so we just kind of handle that gamut. And we do have some musicians, but the musicians we utilize them primarily like for a commercial. And they're like, hey, we need a real musician for this spot. We had one that we're looking for, I think, Dairy Queen. They wanted the guy singing.
DQ, that's what,
Yep. I think you've seen it. So that's how we utilize our talent. And I do tell them that we're not booking gigs for musicians or anything like that. But we do have a wide enough reach where if people call us, I can at least refer them someplace, or we just try to make the connections, because
that's how you grow the industry in San Antonio.
Exactly. You have to make those connections. So that's what I try to do that. Like if we can't help you out, call this person, or maybe, call the film commissioner or wherever. I think we're really good at that. And I'm not saying me as in Condra. I think all the talent agencies understand that we're working together. Like, for instance, I had an agent in Austin. It was a shoot here. They reached out to the guy in Austin. He called me, hey, we don't have this person, but maybe you do. So that way everybody is having their needs met, and everybody walks away happy, and they feel like, okay, we can call these people and trust them and rely on them to get us what we need.
Right. Well, it's being good stewards to your neighbors and having your eye focused on the prize.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's what I
awesome.
think.
Amazing. So if you could share with us your timeline, and this workshop is what we use for the students, as you know, and share an impactful event that happened each year of your life. You can group it up in different sections, 5-year sections, 10-year sections, whatever you feel comfortable, but I'll give you the mic and the floor here on this.
Well, okay. From San Antonio, my dad he was born here kind of as I don't want to say accident. Well, anyway, my grandmother, let me go back. I apologize. My grandfather was a pediatrician in Mexico. And so he had a little clinic across the border. And so, of course, my grandmother came with him, but she was like, she was very pregnant, but they didn't expect anything, but they had my dad. Okay. So, anyway, when I'm really going back, not even, when he was, I guess, 18 or whatever age he was, he got a letter that he had to serve, as a citizen. And so that kind of brought him over here. Met my
Was
mom.
Vietnam? Or?
It was during that time, yeah. There was something that he was honorably discharged, but he was not able to participate for, I can't remember what the reason. I really should know my dad's history a little bit better. I love him. Love you, Dad. But anyway, very good parents. I grew up, in the neighborhood of Jefferson High School and went to St. Paul's, and that was really a fun time. I love St. Paul's. They're closing. I don't know if you heard, and that made me very sad. Because we still have really good connections with all the graduates,
Well, our little school at St. Joseph's South San closed about 20 years ago.
Oh my goodness!
I remember when it closed. It was sad too.
Yeah, and it's to me it's in a really, I think, a good location. I think it's needed, but I don't know the logistics of all that going on. But anyway, it was just a lot of fun. I grew up dancing, piano lessons, like. I kind of think now, looking back, I'm a little ADHD where I was like into everything, and my dad would say, "You don't stop," But I really enjoyed being active, so I do think that kind of helped me kind of get my feet in my hands in a lot of different things, And then I did cheerleading at St. Paul's, which was a lot of fun. Then going on to Jefferson, I was a cheerleader there as well. I don't even know how that happened. I was so scared and I was so nervous. But I think I've always had the guts to try, even if I would fail. And I think that's kind of that's a theme in my life, that I'm noticing as I get older. So that was a lot of fun too. I don't know that anything like transformative happened. It's just, growing up in the neighborhood and doing all the things that you do in San Antonio neighborhood in the 80s, whatever that was. I'm like, gosh, what do we do? Just running around and hanging out with friends. And a lot of my friends at that time went to Incarnate Word. So I do remember going to the Incarnate Word dances. Those were a lot of fun.
Incarnate Word versus Providence, right?
Gosh, I don't know if it still is. So, then I remember my junior year, I think this is one thing that I really remember that kind of my brain started clicking, because my junior year I was doing okay in school, not stellar, but I was doing okay. And I went to, you're supposed to see your counselor as a junior, and she was showing me where I was in the ranking. And she's like, if you're at this, level of ranking, she started talking to me about colleges. And I think I had the thought to go to college, but it wasn't on the forefront of my mind, And I think something that she said just clicked. And I was like, oh, okay. I was ready to get out of the house, like most teenagers are, ready to leave. Like, where can I go? So I just really started putting a lot of my time and energy into college applications. I'm like, I'm not going to get in anywhere, just, I didn't have very good confidence at the time, but I was always, like I said, willing to try just to see where I landed. So I did all my college applications, and I remember just being surprised. When I got into UT, I was like, what? I was so excited, I was like, what? Okay, I can go to Austin. This is amazing. So I think that was kind of a big changing point in my life. And to be honest, when I got to UT, because you went to UT. When I got to UT, I almost felt like, what is that called? Imposter syndrome.
For sure.
I'm like, am I really supposed to be here? Like, do I belong here? But I think that's everybody's feeling that we all go through at some point in our lives. But it's not that it was a struggle for me, but it was definitely a learning curve when I got to UT, because this is the world kind of on a college campus, where you had everything going on at once, and just learning to navigate that. And I think I'm so thankful for that, because I feel like that really just kind of really set me up well, not just for a profession, but just, you meet so many different people, and you learn to navigate all ages, all ethnicities, all, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of all levels people in their
Like
status and
socioeconomic
also
status.
status. Yeah. So I think that growing up where I did and then going to UT, I think I've always been able to navigate between like all these different kinds of people. Like I think that is a gift that I have, that I see a lot of other people now that I'm older, because I am older. I see other people having, maybe they didn't get that skill set, or they didn't have the opportunities. I don't want to say that they didn't get that, but it was definitely opportunities that I was able to, I think, take from the living situation where we grew up, then going to another city that's kind of more like big town city. And so I think that just kind of helped me so much, propelling me. And then again, as a physical therapist, kind of not imposter syndrome, because I worked hard for that, but at the same time, I'm feeling blessed. I just feel like that was a true blessing, and I did do that for over 20 years. So
20 years.
So and again, with that, I was able to work with kids. I was able to work with elderly, and going back to when I was little and just how I grew up, I think that helped me navigate and be able to work with all those kinds of people, because you have to have empathy, you have to be patient, you have to just understand that people are at different places in their life where they need help. And so I don't know, that was definitely a journey, and that was a good journey, and I really enjoyed that. And then coming into this new stage for therapy, that was a jump that I didn't see. That was not on my radar at all. So I was full into therapy, and I got really sick. I got really sick that I was like, I can't work anymore. It was real problematic. And that lasted about a good 2 to 3 years. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it, one of those things. So during that time, I think I really tried to start wrapping my brain around, I need to do something else. And it wasn't that I love therapy, but you have to be present, of course. You have to physically be there. And I was trying to think, what can I do, even remote, if I got sick again? Like, what could I do? That just kind of got me thinking and looking at different career fields, exactly. And I got a little bit better, and that's when my kids started doing their thing, and then that was fun. And it just it was like a slow roll into working with the agency. And then this happened like one year at Easter. It was my dad, again going back to my dad. He was like, Claudia, we really have to let's do a business together, and this is kind of after, it took me a while to kind of get through my illness, but I was feeling a lot better. And with me, if I'm on, I'm on, like, let's go, if I'm a little off, I'm like, oh, I can't do it. But I was all on at that time. I was like, okay, let's see what we can do.
It was divine.
I feel like there's a lot of divine intervention in my life, but that was another moment. I'll tell you what he wanted to do. Over at Jefferson, he wanted me to look at that gas station. Do you remember that? Gas station.
The gas station.
There was a gentleman selling it, and so he's like, "Come on, let's look at it. Maybe we can buy it together," because he wanted to do something. He's retired. Yeah. So I was like, "Okay, we'll go look." And I always have vision. I feel like I've always been that way. I can see things or how it could be. Maybe fix things up or do a little something, jazz it up. So I was like, okay, well, let's talk about it. At that point, it was Easter Day. I went with him and we drove down to Jefferson, talked to the man, and I was like, okay, let's do some business classes. We'll go to business classes and we'll see what we can put together. I know this sounds very simplistic. It was a lot of work. So I went through all this work because I was thinking in the back of my mind, maybe this is something to help me with that, when I was sick. Like, maybe I can do this. It could be a family thing. We can work together. And if I'm sick, at least I can maybe navigate around that. This is probably a long story, more than you want.
We've got plenty of time.
Sorry. So another long story short, I went to the SBA classes, and I did all those things. I did proposals. They were very helpful. So I worked with them a lot.
The UTSA?
Yeah, I worked with them a lot. And I really tried to get that
model down.
That model, and I did research, and I got it all together to propose to buy that space. For whatever reason, the gentleman just wasn't helping me out. Like, I needed info from him.
Was the lender or the owner?
The owner.
Okay.
Yeah, the owner at the time.
So he didn't have his numbers in.
Yeah,
order.
like I just. I don't know that it was him. Like, there was really nothing personal, but we just couldn't get it together. And so I went home and I was like, this is just not going to work. Forget that. And it was that day that it was like, no, this is not going to work. That night, my head was, spinning. My brain was spinning. I was like, what am I going to do? I guess I'm not supposed to do this. And I was online, and it was very strange, Jesus, because I don't do online stuff. Like, it gives me a headache for the most part. Like, I don't search things. That's not me.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I landed, but I found something that said Condra Artista. I was like, wait a second. I know Condra Artista. They've been around since '84. So kind of full circle, because when I was in my 20s, I did reach out to Condra Artista.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it was a full circle moment.
Holy moly.
So I saw that. I was like, wait a second. I called the lady. I think I wrote it down. I don't even know, honestly, I don't even know what website I was on to find the Condra Artista. Like, if I had logged out,
you could have lost it.
I wouldn't, where was it? I have no idea. So another divine moment for me. So anyway, I called the lady, and she was like, oh, sure, let's meet tomorrow. Or it was like real quick. So we had the meeting. I went and I did the, I did the research, and I went with her to the office, and we did some work. Like, I was able to. So
you called her in interest to buy, or to be in
interest to buy it?
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that conversation go? That's so.
Well, what I did tell her is, it kind of sounds like green, but I had already been doing some of this other stuff behind the scenes.
You had.
I already had in my mind that I could do it. So I called out to her, and I was like, I'm interested in buying it. Let me tell you what's going on. I have this plan for this other business that I realized fell through. It's not going to work. So I talked to her. I went to the agency. Went to the UTSA guy that was helping me. We flipped everything for the proposal instead of that gas station or whatever we were calling it to the agency. And it was very helpful. And, everything just like fell into place. It was kind of interesting because that's a hard process to do. It's not like it's easy. But like I said, I had done all the legwork before, so it was just kind of like reconfiguring things and working with the previous owner. And I mean, I'm not. What's the word I'm looking for? It sounds like I jumped, but I understood. The process and the business side of it. And I did go do some shadowing with them. And, it was wonderful. I loved it. I walked in, and another funny thing that was divine is when she told me where they were located. I said, okay, I'll go meet you. So when I drove up, I was like, I have been here before. I had been there like probably a year earlier for another project that I had reached out to this guy, and he was working on a film, and we were going to help him on the film. And this is kind of, again, my son was doing some stuff, so we were still with the other agency, or maybe we had already, that contract expired. But anyway, we had gone to this building before. It was like under construction still. It was a mess. Like, there were no floors. It was concrete. It was a little bit shady, exactly. I was like, I hope we come out of here alive. But the guys that were there, they were doing a film. They had called some actors from Houston. I was there to help them, like, with the script, and just kind of have eyes to help them out. That was a lot of fun. But so when I showed up, I was like, oh, I've been here before. I was just here for this other thing that we did. Yeah, for the film. So I kind of felt like it kind of is coming together again.
Right.
Another full circle that we had. But yeah, I just went in and I felt like I was at home. I felt like it was family, and they are home and family. So I worked there for a bit as we were kind of doing the paperwork and doing proposals, and I had to apply for a loan. That was very stressful. I'll be honest, very stressful. And it all worked out.
Thank God.
It all worked out. Yeah, thank God. But like I said, I just feel like there have been things in my life that just kind of, when it falls together, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. So, and getting that loan, I remember the gentleman, this is where I feel like your students, right? It's important to have those connections and communication and good communication. The gentleman that I was talking to over the phone, who was handling my loan, I didn't feel like warm and fuzzy from him, you know, and that's okay. Like, it's a business. I understand his name, you know, he's on the line for his business. But he was asking me, okay, we're giving you a loan. What are we giving you a loan for? I said, well, for the business, you know, for the name. And he had all the paperwork. He's like, but what do you have? Like, what assets do you have? I said, well, I have our talent, you know, I have the name. He's like, but do you have like equipment? I said, well, you know, our equipment is really kind of our office space, our rent, you know, of course we have some computers and whatever it is that you need for an agency. He's like, well, I want to come see it. I was like, okay. He's like, but I can't come and see it, you know, yet. So let's talk about your loan. And he said, I have to do some numbers and I'll get back with you. And then he asked me, I think I asked him actually. I said, do you want me to come in and meet you in person? Because this is all over the phone. He was like, oh, well, if you want, you know, but he was kind of nonchalant about it. I said, you know what? I think let me come meet you in person. I just felt better about that because I guess I'm old school. I want him face to face if you can, right? If you can, face to face. So I remember I walked in, you know, I was nervous, of course, but I was like, I want to meet this guy and I want him to know I'm serious. Like this, I can do this and I'm serious about this. And I work my bottom off, you know, and everything that I do, I'm going to be working all day. And, it was a good conversation. It was a good meeting. And I don't know if it's when I left or the next time he came out to me. He's like, you know, I don't think I would have given you the loan just based off the numbers, but because you came in face to face, I could see, you know, I could meet you, I could see you're serious, and I know that you could do this. You know, something along those lines. I was like, oh, thank goodness. But he still, when he came to the office, he was like, okay, I'm giving you all this money for this. You better not fail me because I will come find you. I was like, I believe it. I believe you'll come find me. I'm probably off track, but that's kind
you're
of
on your timeline.
That is kind of where that started, and that was almost 9 years ago.
Wow!
So we've been doing this for 9 years, and it's great because you know we started off. My mom was able to help me. They gave me a loan, but I still had to, you know, put like a certain deposit down. So my mom was able to help me with that, and I'm very thankful for her for that. And it's kind of still a family affair, you know. They can jump into,
especially Mexican families.
I know.
Our nonprofit would not be alive without the support of my sister, my mom, my dad. We just threw a parade not too long ago, and we put everybody into it. So it's a family.
It is a family affair because, well, you know, we're all supporting each other, but it's nice that things come into play. And you know, my mom has been on a few projects and gigs, and my dad has too, and my kids have too. And of course it's not just for family. I mean, this is we're you know, this is a real business. It's professional. We want everybody to work, but it's like those last second and you can't get anybody. It's like, hey, can you go downtown real quick? And they just need an extra person. So you know, it's nice to have just that family support. Of course. But that's kind of just what we do. So
your dad wasn't in any movies with Antonio Aguilar or anything, was he?
No, he was not. No, but he's always asking me. I mean, he's what, 84. He's like, hey, do you have another gig for me? He likes to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because he's had a few people say, "Hey, I think I saw you on this commercial." He was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
me." You know. So I'm glad that I was able to do that for him because, again, he's the one that kind of jump started me into even doing the business search to even start. So, I'm very.
He was
thankful.
part of the spark.
He was, yeah. He's and they've both been really hard workers. So I think that's where I get like, you can't just sit still. You know, you got to do something else. So I get that from them.
That's awesome.
So that was 9 years ago, and there's so much more. I feel like I've worn so many hats, but I'm trying to think what else. I think I got lost in my
story.
In my story, yeah.
That's a good story.
Where did I finish?
Was your dad one of the most interesting man who drinks the Dos Equis?
I think he'd like to be, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I still hear stories sometimes about what he did. I'm like, I never heard that before, you know. So, but
is he still lives in San Antonio?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And your mom too?
Yes.
Both?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're all pretty much here. So I do have the rest of the family though is in Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
In border town or
no, Mexico City.
City.
They're kind of, you know, it's a big family. They're like all over the place. And even I have some cousins that live here in the States that I haven't seen.
There's a lot of Villarreals
for years.
everywhere.
Well, that's the Vallejo side.
Vallejo.
And but yeah, I mean, I have cousins that I haven't seen in probably 40 years.
Really?
Yeah. So I haven't been to Mexico in quite a while.
That's what I was gonna ask. When's the last time? Because is there a big scene in Mexico City for?
That's yes.
Such a huge city. You can have to imagine. So.
Yeah. We don't really have connections abroad in that respect. But yeah, I mean, it's busy, hustling. You know, I would like to go back at some point.
Sure.
I just haven't in a long time. I think the last time I was there was actually 17, so it's been a while.
8 years, 9 years.
Oh
since
yeah.
You went back, yeah.
No, like 40 years. I haven't been back.
Oh, since you were 17.
Since I was 17.
That's from 2017.
No,
Yeah.
I haven't been there in 40 years.
Wow, yeah.
It's like way overdue, way overpassed.
Right.
So, but yeah. So I'm still loving what I do. Like I said, it's going to be 9 years, and I'm really thankful. And you know, going back to the illness, that really was a very hard time, and it was depressing, and
sure,
you know,
transformative.
all it was very transformative. And so I think that also like that catapult into I got to do something else.
A little bit more purpose.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that kind of gives you a framework, you know. Like I was able to make it through that, so I just want to do the best that I can here, and I don't want to complain. I just want to work hard and enjoy where we are. So
awesome.
Yeah.
What do the next 5 years look like for you personally?
That's a very good question.
I know we talked about agency-wise.
Yeah, agency.
Your son is at UT?
He is at UT.
That's awesome. He must be very smart because they let me in back when it was literally. It's so hard to get in.
It's so hard
now.
to get in, and I'm very proud of him.
Yeah, he must be very smart.
He is a very smart kid, and he's very creative too. And it's interesting because I think I guess I've always been that, but and I don't know if you see this with your kids, like they pull you in different directions, and you're like, I didn't even know. Like I was passionate about this, you know, and it's interesting to kind of see where you land with that. But they're very creative, both my kids. And I think I started, as they were growing up and the things that we did, I was like, oh, I really like this, you know, and you're really good at this. And so he's a writer and definitely a creative. And he's directed a few, you know, of his movies, and so
awesome.
And he's going to be going to a program this fall, like to just continue that and foster that. So I'm excited for him. And my daughter, I'm very proud of her. She's a world traveler.
Okay.
And
awesome.
so yeah, she was just traveling, and I said, okay, my goal is I really haven't traveled that much, so
really?
I definitely want to do that.
Go backpacking with her?
Yeah, I don't know about backpacking. I don't know about that style, but definitely travel with her a little bit more before I get, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years would be wonderful.
Is she the older or he's older?
My daughter, she's older. So she's gone all over the place. She's been to India, to Thailand, to Australia. I mean, she's been everywhere. I'm like, wow, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's courageous too.
Yeah, and she went by herself when she was 18, and she gave Mama some stress, but she did, like they say, you do grow a lot when in those, and she did that as her gap year. Or she took 2 gap years. But it propelled her when she came back. She's like, I'm really ready and focused.
So energized
to do what I need to do. So she's doing great. But yeah, I mean, it's just life is busy. Like I said, you have many hats, and there's a lot of other things going on, family, and so you just try and navigate, your best that you can with everything going on. But
right,
I feel like I'm in a good space.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know you touched upon this a little bit, but are you doing now what you thought you'd be doing as a kid?
No. But I will say this is recent. I went, with St. Paul's closing, I went and found my yearbook, and I totally forgot. In your 8th grade, you have your picture and you have a quote, and it says, "What will you be doing?" And I wrote, I would own my own business. Right. And I completely forgot that I had that written down.
At 13 years old.
13.
Holy moly.
Now, I don't even know where that thought came in at that time, but I just thought that's interesting, I did think our thoughts kind of propel us to where we need to go. So maybe that was just me projecting and getting to where I needed to be. I don't know, but that's kind of, it's interesting. As a kid, I love dancing, and I thought, I want to be a dancer. I'd love to be on like Broadway shows and like that kind of dancing,
yes.
The Oscars, all those people in the background dancing. I'm like, I want to do that, but I just never. Where do you go for that? Like, you don't,
Right, that's true. So much that are based off of relationships too.
Yeah, and
for good and for bad.
Yeah, but it wasn't anything. I think it was just the thought that it would be fun, but I never looked into anything like that. But I did really enjoy dancing, and I don't know. Life just takes you in some interesting directions, and I do think I was really focused on school. My early 20s, and it's like, I have to do this. I need to finish this. And actually, when I got to UT, though, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think it's because I like a lot of different things. Like, I have a lot of different interests. That might be part of my ADHD that I didn't realize I had, and I think now I'm realizing I did. But it's like, oh, that sounds fun. Oh, that looks interesting. Oh, I could do that. It's, I think that you think you could do everything, but really you got to narrow it down.
There's only so many hours in the day.
Exactly. But my mom was at that time working with an orthopedic doctor. And I was still kind of floundering, like, I don't even know what I want to do. Like, everything looks good. But, of course, you have to make a decision and start getting those classes in. So, at the time, I think it was over the summer, she said, why don't you look into physical therapy? And so I went and talked to the orthopedic doctor, and it was really cool. I mean, I enjoyed, movement. It kind of relates to dance with, movement and body, and just kind of health and wellness kind of thing.
Right.
So I went back to school, and I went and kind of did a little bit of change in my classes. And fortunately, it was still early enough where you could. I did lose a little bit of time, but that's okay. I liked being up there. So I'm like, I had an extra year at UT, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And even that went by so fast.
Yeah, it sure does. We lived there for almost 9 years.
Yeah.
And then I came back to San Antonio.
But, so I feel like everything was just... I had no idea, but I do think I was fortunate where, even though I didn't have opportunities like I'm expressing to you as far as like speaking opportunities, I think I was exposed to a lot of different things, and I had a lot of people in my life that I really admired, And my dancing teacher was one of them. I just loved her. She was such a beautiful, classy lady. And I took like folklorico and dance from her.
You did?
I did. It was wonderful. It was a lot of fun. And we danced at the Arneson Theater. And see, I still think I could do that, but I'm not.
Yeah, just like yesterday.
It's just like yesterday, exactly. So I had that. Then I had a really wonderful piano teacher, and she was elderly.
Do you still play?
I don't, and I'll say that's a regret because I was doing so many things.
You gotta choose.
I would leave her lesson, and I loved her. I would leave her lesson. I'm going to practice. I'm really going to do it, because she was like, "Did you practice?" And mainly, I would do things just memory,
Right.
But I didn't practice, and I would go back the next day or the next week, and I'd be embarrassed. I would still do okay, and then I would leave, and I'm like, I'm going to really practice this week and impress her, and that was my cycle. So I didn't do very good, but I loved it. I just didn't practice.
Right.
But again, that's the exposure, because she was an elderly Jewish lady, and she was taking care of her husband, and that's how she got by, by the piano lessons in the neighborhood. So she was a person that, I'm thinking like, where else would I have exposure to someone like that? Like I wouldn't, And there was just a lot of little things like that in my life that I think kind of were stepping stones to kind of, I had a desire to help people. So that, again, drew me into therapy at that time. And this is where I am now. I feel like I still like helping people. Like, I feel like it's still a part of that. It's just in a different way,
right.
Where, they have different goals and different dreams. And so we just try and help them navigate in that and, have fun and make a little bit of money. And that's, that's great.
You got to. I mean, this world is, you got to pay to play.
That's right. Exactly.
Is there a quote you live by?
Yes. I never say it right, but it's essentially, when you fall, you have to get back up. If you don't, you can't give up,
Right.
know. And the failures are really not failures. It's just another, like
lesson.
I said, it's a lesson. It's a stepping stone. It's like you get back up and you use that to go to the next level. So, I was thinking about that. There's so many quotes that I actually really do like, but that's just kind of what I live by. And I try to, always tell my kids, you're going to fail. You're going to fall.
Part of life.
Like for myself, my health, that was just a huge fall and, flat on your face. But, you just have to kind of go within and dig deep. You really have to dig deep. I prayed a lot.
Yes.
A lot. And you just have to, just keep going day by day. So you just get up and I have to make it through today until you're like running a little bit better. And then, okay,
Right.
now I'm full throttle.
Yes.
I can go. So
Yes.
I think that's really important. And I don't know if that gets told enough or if kids have enough of that message, but I would love for everybody to feel like, I can do it. I'm good enough to do it. Maybe you don't have somebody telling you, but there are people around you that will support you in that. So
failure's tough. It's
It
so
is.
hard because it's when you feel your weakest.
exactly. But that's when you grow.
That's so true.
Even, I have been weak so many times, but I think you get a sense of, I don't want to say thick skin, but you
You
kind
build the
of
callus.
you kind of understand. I survived that. Okay, there's something else that's going to come because there's always something else.
Right.
Hopefully it's not in one thing after the other, and that does happen to some people, and that just has happened to me as well. But you just have to understand. You lean on those when you need it, on people that are there. You do have to lean in, and I think that's one thing that it's hard for me to do, to ask for help when you need it. But, then vice versa, you can be there when you're strong, someone else is weak.
Yes.
We're helping each other out and we're kind of pulling each other up that ladder, just to keep going.
Right.
So,
Well, on the topic of strengths and weaknesses, what's your greatest strength?
My strength. I feel like I feel like I can connect with everybody around me, no matter where you are.
You have good
I
energy.
do think that's a strength. I'm also very stubborn.
Mhm.
And I do think, even though that's really a weakness, it could be a strength, because I think that has pulled me through so many tough times. So I kind of, sometimes it's funny because I think that my strength is my weakness and my weakness is my strength, with that kind of stubborn-headed that I have. Yeah, that I'm not going to give up. Even though I feel like giving up, I'm not going to give up, and I'm just going to keep pushing through. So, and that doesn't always work, right? But you learn, like I said, that's where you're falling, and that's where you're learning those lessons, and that way you can keep pushing forward. But that being aside, I really do. I don't know. I think from San Antonio, and it's not just to people to San Antonio, but if you grow up in communities where you have like a lot of diversity. You can learn things from different people. And I just feel like all my life I've learned from so many different people that have come into my life.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a unique experience, but I think maybe now, because I don't want to sound very old, but I am older, where you didn't have phones and you had
You're
to
in your prime right now.
Yeah, where you had to ask questions and you go up to people face to face and, you're embarrassed to ask a question, but you did. I think that's where I learned a lot of things. Even as a 13-year-old at St. Paul's, there was a program where they had at the nursing home. You get credit, and I'm like, sure, I'll go. And I would listen to they were elder, they were sick, and I think I gleaned a lot from that. On their views of life, mostly positive. I mean, you have all gamuts of that. A lot of them were in the war, stories, and I would listen to their stories. And it really kind of gives you a different sense of kind of where we came from, what people had to go through to get where we are now.
Right.
I mean, and that's when I was 13, So I do think all those experiences kind of really helped me in my strengths where I am now. But that isn't something that you just have. It's building blocks. And I think that's kind of where I've landed.
Okay. Well said. I think the best of us get the best of those who are around us too. So, what about weakness?
Well, I'm stubborn. I'm hard-headed. I don't know. I know I have a lot of weaknesses. I never give up, and I don't like to give up on anything or anybody, but sometimes you have to know when to walk away. And I think that might be a weakness that I have, because I'm always willing to help and try and do this and that
and work it through
and it's really not a weakness, but I think it's just kind of learning where you can be useful, and then where it's not really being useful. And I think that's something maybe that you still navigate as different phases in life where you have to kind of walk fine lines for different things. But I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that's a great example. It reminds me of my time at UT, and I did the business certificate program with my engineering degree. And I remember there was a class, and there was a big old quote in the Macomb School of Business, right? Big old quote, and it said, "Don't ever make a decision based off the future. No, don't ever make a decision for your future based off of the sunk costs you've lost before." And it's like, well, in the case where you don't ever quit, you're like, no matter what it looks like going forward or what it is back. I mean, I could see how that would. Yeah. That's a hard one, because you get so invested in the back. You get and you're like, and you have to. Okay, I'm gonna go to my Kenny Rogers. You gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, right?
That's right. I mean, you're right.
It's such a balance, and so it's one of those conundrums in life that you've just got to use discretion and be able to navigate through the gray.
That's true. One thing I will say that I've always, and I still, to this day, I want to work on it, but I wish I would have been better. And this kind of goes back to, in school is public speaking, because I feel like even though I like to be behind the scenes, I know it's valuable to be able to, hold some kind of audience for different things. And I think that's something that everybody, obviously should be working on. But I think that's one thing also that I'm like, I still want to do Toastmasters. Like I'm always trying to find things to do better and to be better. And, but I know that is one thing that I kind of have struggled with in the past, even with everything that I've done. I can be supportive all day long, but I don't like being in the spotlight. And I think just kind of as you get older, you're like, you have to assume some kind of even if for the agency, I am, the owner and the agent, and I can handle calls and talk to people all day long. It's just the public part,
You're great one-on-one. I think you're
you.
very personable, good energy, very warm, welcoming.
I just want to, that's one thing that me personally, I want to definitely work on.
Right.
So I can, I don't know, do some good stuff and,
Well, there's some people that are just special too. It's like, man, and they're like can just demand a crowd and
hold the audience.
I don't know. They call it the JFK syndrome or something, right? He walks in, it's like, oof.
Yeah. So I'm aspiring to be better at that. Let's just say.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, did you have a mentor growing up?
Not one per se. I do think because I was like had my hands in a lot of different things. That's where I feel like I did learn a lot from.
You go back to your dad a lot, and I feel like I don't know. I'm not gonna speak for you, but it seems like there's a lot you pull from him.
Yeah, actually, both of them. So my dad is hard-headed.
Okay, there.
But he's always worked so hard. Both my parents, they worked hard. So my mom had I'm sure you've heard of Mary Kay. She did her Mary Kay business, and she got into it to make extra money. For me, I needed braces and stuff. So she's like, okay, so she's worked, and she's still doing that.
Wow.
So she's worked really hard. So they've always been entrepreneurial. And not afraid to try. And I think that's where I get that from, as maybe like you said, like a mentor. Driving over here, I'll tell you, I did stop. I don't know what it's called, Don and Juan's or something. And when I was like 9 or 10, my dad opened a restaurant there.
Really?
And it was called Claudia's Mexican Restaurant.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you have a picture of that?
I think we do somewhere.
You need to send that to me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And where's that on? Don Juan's?
So, yeah, I think it's Don Juan's.
Don Juan's now?
I just took a picture on the way. I went in because I hadn't been there.
Is it around here?
Yeah.
Really? On the over Quintana on the bridge, or?
I'll tell you. I'll show you where it is. Or
Don Juan.
I took a picture because I'm like, I'm gonna walk in here. Yeah, Don Juan on. Shout out to Don Juan.
There you go.
This is the back of that.
Peace, love, and
It's like right over the bridge, downtown.
Okay.
Kind of. I think it's kind of by the jail.
Okay, right over that bridge. Got it.
Right over the bridge. So
near Guadalupe. Huh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I came in.
Because there's the little funeral home on Guadalupe Street.
I came down Colorado. I think I came down
Brazos, Colorado,
around that area. Okay. I'll get it for you. But I was driving. I was like, I'm gonna stop. So I stopped and I took that picture and I walked in. And I talked to the owner. I said, my dad had a restaurant here for about a year or two. My grandmother came in to cook. My mom and dad helped. I went and helped as I could.
Y'all are so entrepreneurial.
So it was fun. So that's what I'm saying. I think I kind of got a lot from them because they both were willing to just, do what they
roll
had
up their sleeves and go.
and just work. And then I remember going to I don't know, like those big warehouses where you get like all those industrial pans and stuff like that, and that was a lot of fun. We bought those for the restaurant, so I remember that very vividly. I was very sad when they closed.
when were they open and closed?
I think that was probably like 1980 to 82, about that time frame.
82.
Somewhere around there.
Man, so you were competition against Wendy's, huh?
I was, yeah.
Like, picture Claudia right here, and then Wendy's down the street.
It was fun. I really liked that. And see, that's just it. I've had fun in all these things. And then, so he closed that, and then he had a lawn business for a good 5 or 6 years. And he would hire, and they would work their bottoms off, and he handled everything, from he'd get the uniforms, he got all the equipment, he got there were the big trucks that, that go up to get so that was, I thought that was fun too, we'd have all these random people in our yard and they would come get paid, but I thought it was fun, and so I learned, I guess, just, go for it with that. Then he went to something more kind of traditional, but I thought those were fun. I have good memories of all that.
Yeah.
So, and then my mom, I would go with her to her meetings, and, that was a very positive influence, with her business, because it was a bunch of women,
right,
running their own business and professional, and they were very classy. And so I think through all my years, I just had mentors for all this,
My mom used to take us to Tupperware. I think all the Tupperware. Yeah. They meet in some building, and a whole bunch of older women. And,
and were you like, Mom, take me home?
I know. I'd be kicking the vending machines, trying to get quarters for the buy. I mean, this was back in the day.
Yeah. And those are all, like I said, it was fun, good memories, and you would meet a lot of interesting people. And it wasn't people, anybody my age. So I think that was very good. I think it helps with your people skills.
For sure.
One other thing I want to mention during this time frame, it feels like it all happened like kind of in the same time. I think I was 12 and I was outside. We had just gotten home, and there was an elderly man, and he was cutting the grass. And so I went and offered him some lemonade. And I was like, told my Mom, I'm going to go give him some lemonade, because, he was an older man, and he had long sleeves, which I didn't realize a lot of the older people from that generation would work outside in long sleeves. I was like dying in the heat, and I was how is he doing that? So I went and offered him lemonade, and he was like, no, thank you. No, he just kept working. And I felt like, oh my God, I offended him. I shouldn't have gone to say anything. But about 3 days later, he came over and knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, and I saw that he was there, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble, I was so nervous, and I was hiding, and my mom answered the door. He goes, oh, well, is this where the little girl lives? That was such a nice gesture, and I brought y'all some stuff because. So from that, we developed like he kind of came to family functions and stuff.
So awesome.
And so he was, his name was Willie, and he, he was like, I didn't realize at the time, I thought he was like 80, but he was probably in his 50s,
Yeah.
And he was like, he lived like on, I'm trying to think what part, like Ames Road, kind of in different neighborhoods, it was more like the Black community, not Hispanic community. And so we would go over there at times and, help him out with stuff. And that was also an eye-opening experience,
right.
And so actually I've started, my son is helping me write a script, because to me now looking back, I was like, God, what a unique experience that was. Just like going to his church, and I'm just like this little Hispanic kid, right? And I think they were looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, are you okay? But yeah, just unique experiences like that. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, there's so much fruit there, because just across the tracks is different, right? I mean, it's day and night sometimes.
Yeah.
And not that it's better or worse, it's just different.
It's just different. And I think that's what a lot of people don't have exposure to different. Again, that's before, you can just phone stuff. But yeah, you actually went places, and you would do different things. I went to, I must have been a 7th or 8th grader, and they had a program here by, is it San Fernando Cemetery?
San
Las
Fernando.
Palmas.
Well,
right?
Well, San Fernando Cemetery, but off between General McMullen and
Las Palmas is there, or it used to be Las Palmas.
Maybe there. Well, I think San
now.
Fernando has like different sections. There's section 1, section 2, section 3.
Well, there's like a YMCA kind of in that area. Okay, so again, they had different programs to come in, like for the summer, and you can learn different things. This is kind of where it falls into what I got exposed to.
Yes.
Where they had, I think it was a guy that was there, and he kind of worked at the news. Oh my gosh, this is a new memory for me that I'm just realizing that he
what
was.
News station?
I think it was Ken's.
Ken's 5.
And I believe that
Is it Deborah Knapp?
No. But I believe that they took us there for, just like a little field, like a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And that might have been the very first time. And I'm just realizing that right here.
Wow.
It's a recollection that just came to mind that, it was just exposure and like different people like, oh, well, what do you want to learn about? And I think you write it down. And so they had different people come in. So, wow,
That's
that is a
awesome.
new.
Who was it?
I don't remember who it was, but I do remember going into
It was a
the
man,
facility.
or-
It was a man. yeah.
Henry Bonilla, maybe? He's a mentor, by the way.
Oh, is he? That's awesome.
He used to be married to Deborah Knapp.
Oh, that's right.
Back in the day, yeah.
That's right. No, I mean, this was again like in 82 time frame. Probably before you were born.
Well, a little before I was born, but Henry Bonilla was pretty active in the 70s. Yeah.
But so that was in the community, and that's what they did, and this through the YMCA. And I remember being really excited, because if they drop you off and you were there all day, and then you would kind of do these different things. So that was really cool. And yeah, that just, wow.
That's so
that
awesome.
just
What an epiphany.
It
Just
was
right
an epiphany.
now, right?
Just right now. So many things. So I really did a lot over in this area, because my grandparents also lived on Lombrano Street. And which is, we would do a lot of shopping and all this stuff. And so I do really feel like this is like, I grew up here.
It's your neighborhood. Yeah.
It's my neighborhood.
That's awesome.
Exactly. So I feel like I can connect really well with like
The community things.
the community
building.
and things going on, and, just kind of feeling like, I'm just this kid that, who really wants to put time and effort into me. And it's like, actually a lot of people do, really people are
Takes
there
a
for you.
village.
And it does
Takes a
take a village. And so we're all part of that village.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that when you were young, you thought it was true, or you thought it to be one way, but as you grew older, you realized it wasn't exactly what you thought it was?
That's a hard question. I don't know. I was thinking about that. I really never came to a conclusion. I guess I just felt like I didn't know enough for myself. And as you get older, and I think it was more probably after I had kids, where you're like, I know what I need, and I know what I need for my family. And, you kind of put different people on pedestals. I'm not saying that, you shouldn't, because people go through different fields, education, and people do know what they're doing. But I do remember like having some instances where I needed help with something, and, someone kind of like, oh, it's not that, like, and you have that gut, like, yes, it is that, or yes, I need this, or yeah, you have those gut feelings, and then you realize you do need to really advocate for yourself.
Yes.
Maybe that's one thing, because I didn't have that as a younger person. I really felt like I maybe I needed it from this person, or I needed that, whatever that was. But I think as you get older, you just realize, no, you have to trust your gut. You have to trust who you are, and you have to trust that you're enough, and that you do know, you do know how to navigate,
right.
and you're going to be okay.
Well, the self-advocacy is huge.
Right.
And then blindly trusting, like, especially in somebody's title or somebody's reputation, it's a little dangerous.
It is.
Trust but verify, right?
Right.
Trust but verify,
Right.
I think is
Right.
kind of what I'm pulling from this.
Right. But also, I think, and I'm not an expert on this, but, and this might be going into a different topic, but you're a female, and, I grew up, my mom was still kind of, like it's kind of just generational, I'm trying to say. And I didn't really feel that per se, maybe like the younger female generations, because I had a little bit more like, no,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you still kind of have that, like you're saying, you still trust, you kind of put a level of trust. And I'm not saying you don't trust people, because I'm a trusting person, but at the same time, like you're right, you have to vet and you trust, but you have to also kind of understand the world, and you understand, different things, and you look at things differently. But yeah.
Especially when it comes to your body, right? I mean, the doctor or whoever it is doesn't know exactly what you're feeling, and maybe you don't have the right words to describe it, but advocating for yourself, and then just to go more metaphorically, right? You've got to advocate for yourself
and your family. And I think that's where I did find my voice. So it took me a little bit of time, and I think that's where, stressing to me, I try and stress to like even the younger actors, like, it is a growth process. So, you have to just give yourself some time to develop and grow and learn what you need. And we're here to support you, but it's still, again, your journey. And, definitely reach out if you need help. And like we're talking about, just advocate for yourself. So, but.
Beautiful. What is your purpose in life?
I think I really just want to be a light for others. I've always felt that way. Like I try to my best to be present for people. I tend to, everybody has, like we're talking about a lot on this discussion, their journey, but I feel like I've always gravitated more when I see people like are falling. If that makes sense. I don't even know how to say that.
The underdog.
Yeah, I try my best. I mean, I can't be everywhere, obviously, but I can tell if someone's like down, and I think I have vulnerable. I try if I can, because there's a lot happening, to be there as a support and, just uplifting as much as I can be. Because there's so many things that can bring us down. Yes. And I don't want to be that person. I want to be someone that, can be supportive and can try and hopefully help you see a different side of things and, a sounding board. Because I like to steer away from that negativity that surrounds us in kind of everyday life that happens. And I have a soft heart for all ages, of course, but I just feel like I want to be there for kids. And like I said, when you reached out, I'm like, I really would like to participate, and if I can help one person see something differently, or maybe have when things are hard, like, oh, well, maybe, it's like a little light that they can maybe start gravitating towards, even from something that is said or done, or that they can see, So I want people's lives to be better, if at all I can do that. I mean, it's hard to say that because you're just one person. And I know I have a talent agency, but I just try and help our talent as best as we can. I just want to be there for my family, for my kids. And then I really want to, that's why I want to get public speaking down a little bit better, grow in the community. So that way, all the voices that need to be heard and that are there, like, we're here to help. What can we do to help?
Yes.
And how do we come together to help? I mean, that's kind of where I think this journey is taking me. And the older I get, I'm like, okay, I need to get there quicker.
I see. Yeah.
I want to get there faster. So
what's the best advice you were ever given?
I think just go for your dreams. And my parents have always been very supportive, so I think that's just in the back of my head. Just go for it, If there's something really in your heart, just go for it. And you might not have all the answers. Of course, do your research, do your best to handle things the correct way, as best as you can. But you just, if you never try, you're never going to know.
Right.
So I think I've tried a lot of things, and now I know.
No, it's definitely in your blood through your mentor, through your dad. I mean, you and your dad have been starting businesses together since you were a kid.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he didn't give up on you, even in his 70s, when thinking about.
That's right. He's always had that kind of dream to just do more. And I think that's where I am, do more. And my mom as well, you know.
Oh, yeah.
She's always been supportive of everything. And she's also a go-getter, so I definitely get it. It just runs in the family.
Yeah.
So.
Well, but you're only one person.
I know.
You can only do so much in however many hours in the day.
Yeah, I know.
How do you balance that?
I enjoy what I do. So, and I know there's a quote for that. If you enjoy what you do, it's never work.
It's never work.
Yeah. And I do feel that. Like I really enjoy what I do. And I wake up thankful and grateful every day. Because I feel like I'm in the right place. And yeah, I mean, it's a busy day, you know, and sometimes I am going all day. So this work is not easy.
I'm sure.
It really isn't. And it is time consuming, but that's okay. Like I feel I'm in a spot in my life. Like if this were even 20 years ago, I could not do this job because I had other things pulling me. Well, yeah, probably not. I probably wouldn't have all the tools that I needed, but it does take a strong commitment because it's not just one or two or three people. It's a lot of people that you're working with, you're navigating. So the business is it's again professional business. It's very busy. There's constantly things that are needed and required. But I enjoy it, and so even though I'll complain like, oh my gosh, I'm still here doing this, but it's okay. Like I had someone on set this morning at 6, or she had to be there at 6:30. I said, call me if you need me. She was okay. She didn't really need anything, but so it can start early, 6:30. And then I could have somebody on set and they're still there. I've had, things happen. And I think there was one set that they were there. It was already like 11:30, 12. And I'm like, well, what do you need? Don't try and drive home now. Like, so we were looking for that. There's always something to do. We were looking for like the nearest hotel or something.
She was out of the city.
Yeah, to try and navigate like where you could stay so you would be safe. That like there's just so many facets that you might not even think of that are involved, and it's not just those things. It's contracts. It's kind of renegotiating, touching base, and checking in on things if people are on set or reviewing their auditions, talking to talent if they need to go back and redo the audition, So there's that's going on all day long. So it's very busy.
Yes. What does the day-to-day job look like being a talent agent? Well, kind of everything that I described, but I will tell you, like just yesterday is a very typical day. I got a call. So we have a contract with one of our talent that the ad agency wants to cancel, and they want to reassign it to, I guess it's the client. So that was just a renegotiation that we needed to do. Reaching out to the talent, letting them know, hey, this is happening. Reaching out to the original ad agency, hey, are you in agreement? Going back to the client, okay, you're in agreement to continue the payments. There's a lot of little things. So we worked that out. Everybody's in agreement. So I had to do my little contract. I had to do the reassignment with that. That's the Adobe that I have, so we did the DocuSigns and things of that nature. Then we have another client that needed 5 talent for a training video that they're going to do. So we went through all the auditions. We got everything in. They sent a little sample script. They send us back, okay, this is the rate for your talent. Great, everything looks good. These are the people we want. It's going to be, I think it was supposed to be tomorrow. It was supposed to be tomorrow. Then they said, hey, guess what? We're not going to have everything ready. So please check with all your talent and see if they can do it in 2 weeks. Okay. Checked with everybody. Okay, everybody's on board. Okay. Then we didn't hear anything. I thought everything was set. Then got a message. Hey, well, sorry, but now we have to redo the script. So it's not going to be till the end of August. So I was like, oh no, because some of these talent are younger and they're going to be going to school. So I reached back out to at least the 2 for sure that go back to school. They're still going to be here. So I think that's going to work out.
So that's just a piece. Then you have to get on the casting sites and you have to look at all the breakdowns. So I do have some talent that will message me and say, hey, I just saw this come out. Because when you're a talent, you're going to be working off of 2 casting sites. One is Actors Access and the other one is Casting Networks. As a talent, you are able to look in yourself and kind of,
build your profile or something.
Yeah, you have your headshot and you have your resume. You check off all your skills, whether that's sports or singing or whatever that is, you check off all your skills.
Like skills you want to play roles in, or skills you really do?
Skills you have.
Oh,
drumming,
okay.
anything that you have that. One time we had a commercial and they were looking for a professional ping pong player. I was like, I don't think we have anybody that plays professionally ping pong. But so you put all your skills on there.
Okay.
So based off when a talent comes on board, we've already reached out, we've talked to them, we've done a little. It's an interview, but it's more a kind of we kind of see where they are, and if we feel like we can work with them,
like icebreakers type.
Yeah, we can go from there. So when a talent is represented, they go into Casting Networks and Actors Access. They're creating their profiles. Then we can see them. Once we're connected with them, then we're sending it to the casting directors. So that's just another piece on a daily basis. When they're in these casting sites every day,
it's almost like a LinkedIn, right?
Almost. So only casting directors are sending all these breakdowns in. So it's not like a big social media piece where everybody's seeing this stuff. But if you're a talent, you will, if you want to, if you choose to. So I have some talent that will call me like, hey, this just came out. Will you put me in there? Sure, So, and every day we're looking at them, and sometimes they text me and we've already put them in, like, oh, we already got you. Don't worry about it. So that's what we're doing also. That's a daily thing. And that can be up to, 20 different projects that we're looking at.
How many different talents do you have?
Well, on our roster, it's quite a bit. It's over 300, but sometimes people are inactive or they're on hold. Right. So it fluctuates. Just
same with our mentors, right?
Yeah, it just fluctuates because some people are all in right now, or we're off for the summer. So we have to just be aware of who's on,
right? Who
can we put in? Because a lot of these projects that come in, they'll be shooting like within the next month, so they need the audition. If they like their audition, they ask them for a call back. If they liked them enough, they might put them on right of first refusal. And I don't know if you've heard those terms, but that just means that if we get contacted, please put so-and-so on right of first refusal. I'll contact that talent, say, they're very interested in you. You're like in the top 3. Hold that date. Can you hold that date? And we check. We verify. Yeah, I can hold that date. So then we go back to casting. Yes, they are confirmed for right of first refusal. Based off of that, then the client and the casting director, they go through everybody that they're confirmed that they can do it. And then they start whittling down, okay, we want this person, this person. So you might book it, you might not. When you're on right of first refusal, we're just, optimistic that they book.
They get it, yeah.
Yeah, that they get it.
A higher, a little bit more likely chance.
Right. So you're almost there when you're on right of first refusal. And we get a lot there on right of first refusal and they get booked. But then we get some that we don't hear back, and then, hey, are they still? Oh no, we've casted it, and sorry, we forgot to tell you. So then I have to call the talent and say, oh man, next time, So it's just there's so many pieces.
Back and forth.
Yeah, there's a lot of. So we're kind of like the gatekeeper between casting and the actors, and what I try and especially our newer talent, I try and remind them. It's helpful for these casting directors when they're working with agents. They might be working with 6 agencies versus 120 talent. So if they're emailing each talent, it's helpful for them, and it's cost effective for them to just say, I'm going to call Condra, Claudia at Condra, and she's going to tell me who's available.
She'll handle the logistics and make it happen.
Right. It's very much logistics, and we're trying to help out. We're trying to help out casting. To navigate them, to get them the right people for that role. And so that's we still have people that will reach out and okay, they're with the agency now, like, oh, but I used to like be on all these things that they would get themselves sometimes. And what I remind them is like, but you're at a higher playing field, now you're not going to be paid like the $80 just to show up. You're really vying for a principal role that, you're going to be the star of the show. And that's what you want. I mean, if you want to be represented by an agency, that's your
end goal.
That's your end goal. And that's where people can really do well, not just enjoying it. I mean, you should have a passion for it and enjoy it.
Right.
But, we're hoping that you can walk away and have some money that you can put in your pocket for something that you need or want, or for the kids that do this. We've had some kids make some really good money, and so it's there for for future whatever they would like. So I think that makes me really happy, because I would have liked that when I was a kid, because I didn't have any of that money. I think I collected cans and stuff, so like I said, it's just like that exposure and letting people know that we are here. And it's definitely a something to look into if they're interested. In doing.
So that's kind of like the day and day with the actor or your talent. What type of relationships do you build with directors and young people who are wanting to screenwrite? And then are there different tiers? Like, do you get approached by screenwriters, like, hey, I have this play I'd like to do, I don't have a lot of money, or hey, I have this play, I do have money, and what does that look like in the day and day?
We don't really see a lot of that with our agency, because a lot of that is more kind of like indie or like plays. We're not involved so much in that. We do have a lot of our actors that are actively in plays. That's very I love all the talent. I admire them because that's very disciplined. That's an every day you go and you
got to
practice
remember
it.
your lines.
It's every day. So, I admire that, because that's something that I couldn't do. And they do they do great, obviously, if it's something they want to cross over into, because it's definitely a different dynamics, but it's still kind of along the same lines where you enjoy the collaboration. You're good at performance, you're good at expressing or selling or whatever it is that they're looking for. But as far as working with like the casting directors that we work with, we have a long-standing relationship with them because we've been around since '84. So they can call, or it's again, it's usually through the breakdowns, but if they need to, they can call us or they can email us and like, hey, we need this. And it's not something that really it's ever a face-to-face. It's more like phone calls and stuff, but we try and be there as a support, because if they can't get talent, then what are they going to tell their clients?
Right.
What are they going to tell Toyota that needs all these people for
a commercial?
A commercial, so they have to rely on the agencies. And that's not just Condra. All the agents work very hard. So
to find good talent.
Yeah. We're all working daily. We all have a lot to contribute, and we're all trying to find the best talent, and so I feel like I have good relationships with the other, and we don't see each other very often, but if I see them, it's great to see them. We had a class last year, I think it's already been a year, where there was an acting class and they had the agents come in, to look at the talent, and some of the talent signed on with different agencies. So that's nice to do. I enjoy those things because, again, we're all working hard and in the same boat.
Well, everybody wins when the tide rises, right?
That's right.
The casting director, don't judge me for my ignorance in this. Casting director is different than the director, yes. Right? He would roll up under the director, right. And he's like, hey, I need these director would say, I need these qualities. Casting director's like, I think these are your top pick. Ultimately, the final say is the director, the casting director.
Yeah, and the client. So, like, for instance, I always come back to HEB. They come up with like some ad that they have in mind, and so they will go seek out, who's going to handle what. Whatever their production team, the casting director kind of comes under, and then they get the breakdown. Okay, we need we're going to need 12 people. We're going to need 3 kids. The kids are going to be between 13 and 15. One of them, we need a boy, 13, 15. So they get that breakdown. So the casting director is then putting all this all together. They're going to find out what is the rate for this project. How much are we going to pay the talent? So they are really good at sorting through, getting the auditions in. They can kind of help with that. And then from that point, they can send off those auditions that come in. This is where we're on our talent. It has to be clear. You have to give them exactly what they want. You have to follow instructions. There's some very specific requests on auditions. So we want to make sure we're giving the casting director exactly what they need so they can pass that along to the team.
Because then the trustee is a reputable source.
Right. So, and this is something that, again, just goes into being professional, following instructions, like you would in any job.
Yeah, be professional.
And, if you don't have all the information or if you don't know, ask the questions. Don't just throw something out there and say, sorry, I did the best I could. And I'm sure you did, but you do need to get all the information and make sure.
Be prepared.
Right. So, there are very specifics. And I can understand if you've never done that before or heard it or seen it, it would be a little confusing. But, that's where the training comes in. And that's where it's important to, when we bring somebody on board, that they know what is expected. Because if you don't know, then we're not helping. We're not going to be able to help you to get to here from A to Z. Right. You need to have a few steps.
They need to have requirements and define expectations so that you know what the acceptance criteria is.
Exactly.
Oh, that makes sense. Such an interesting world that all we ever do is see the movie.
Right. There's so many commercial. There's so many parts that come before that to get there.
Yeah. And for it to be professional.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So, when people, what's one word that people outside your family, right? When people hear the name Claudia Villarreal, what's one word you want them to think?
Kind.
How about for family?
Helpful, loving.
These are going to be hard questions here. Okay. Whose death greatly affected you?
Oh, okay. I think that's going to go back to that gentleman that I've befriended. I had a lot of deaths that have affected me, but I think his affected me the most because his death is one that I felt like I handled as an adult, as a young adult. And I think that really, I don't know what it did to me, to be honest, but it still affects me to this day. And I still get sometimes emotional. And it's weird. But that's where I felt like there's a story there. And I haven't written a script per se, but I have written down like all my things that I remembered about. It was like a 10-year journey. That's why to me it's like very impactful in my life. And I am having my son help me with the script, and I've reached out to other people because I really would like to see this come to fruition.
That's so beautiful.
So that's maybe part of my 5-year plan at some point.
So you like a movie or a play, or what are you thinking?
I don't know if it's going to be a short film or a movie, but I have had somebody tell me maybe a play, because then the play can kind of roll into something else. So we'll see. But the reason I think it affected me is because he was an elderly Black man, and I didn't have anybody else. That was kind of a shift. I mean, I know a lot of Hispanic people.
Well, even us growing up, the kids who were Black here, their last names were Sanchez or Ortiz or something. They were half, or even white. White kids here were half Mexican. So
I think I felt guilt about this, to be honest, and maybe that's what's propelling me, because we were kind to him. We'd invite him over to, I felt like he was. He was part of if you want to come, you can come to our dinners, because he was by himself. He was an older man living by himself. As far as I knew, he didn't have any family here. And I think as a young teenager, I didn't think to ask, to get any information. I didn't think to ask that. And then I kind of lost track of him. So this is where, I was at UT, and then I think like one summer, you kind of grow up and like, gosh, where is he? Like, I haven't heard from him. So that's when I started trying to dig, like, well, where is he? And I went to the neighborhood, and they're like, oh, we haven't seen him, or I can't remember exactly. Yeah, I don't think they had seen him. Like, they didn't know what happened to him. And I think I even called like hospitals. Like, I was really actively like trying to find him. Like, where did he just disappear? Or did he pass? I guess I guess he died, And then I was at a home by chance because it was a summertime at my mom's house, and there was a call and I answered it. And the gentleman said something like, I'm looking for Claudia, but he said the name like Vallejo's kind of, different. And he said it messed up, and I thought it was like, she's not here. And I was like, gonna hang up. He's like, wait, I'm actually looking for Willie, and I was, so I was like, what? And he goes, I have a gentleman here that has been telling me to give you a call and to find you. And that was Willie.
Wow. Oh my God.
Every time it gets me. I'm sorry. Thank you. So, thank you. So I was so happy though. I was like, oh my God. So he was at a nursing home. Apparently he got really sick. I know he had a connection with a gentleman who would drive him places. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why it gets to me. So he was just really sick, and so he was in a nursing home. And of course he didn't have like funding or anything, So I talked to him on the phone, and he was crying, and I was crying. He was like, I kept telling him to find you. I kept telling him, and they thought he was crazy, essentially. So I went to a little store here. It was a nursing home close by in the neighborhood. And I went to a little store by the cemetery because that's the only place I can think of. And he went at Pig's Feet and Cheesehead. That's what he went at. I was like, I don't even know what that is, So I walked into the store and I was like, do you know what that is? He goes, oh yeah. So you went and it was Pig's Feet. It was really Pig's
Not
Feet.
chicharrones.
It was Pig's Feet.
Okay.
With the little toes.
Everything.
I've never seen that before. And I thought, oh my goodness. I almost threw up.
Yeah.
And Cheesehead, I guess, is more of a thing, but I never, but again, that's cultural. Like, I had no idea.
Right.
So I took him his cheese. That's what he wanted, like, because he was in the nursing home, I guess, eating whatever that food was. And they said he could have it. So, so it was so nice to see him. And unfortunately, I know we got a lot of pictures, but I can only find one, and I wish I had more. But anyway, so I went and visit him, a few times, just to, if you need anything, I would sit with him while he ate, and that kind of thing. But anyway, so it was Christmas Eve, and they called me. So this is like summer, so it's just like a few months. And they called me, and I knew he was like sick, obviously. And they're like, we don't think he's going to make it. You might want to come out. So I went out, and I was like, oh my God. And there's nobody there, He has no family. So I felt so bad, and I was there, and he was just crying out in pain. And oh my gosh, I'm trying not to cry. And I prayed that he would pass because I felt like he's in so much pain. And I went and asked him, I was like, can you give him anything? No, we've already given him everything we can. And it wasn't even a hospital.
Yeah.
And I think because of my age, I thought this is what you're supposed to do.
Normal.
And that's where I get angry, because it was after the fact. It was like I felt like I could have done more. And I didn't know. That's where I felt like I didn't have a voice.
Process, yeah.
Right. I trusted the process, and I didn't have my voice, and that's where I think that propelled me a lot. That kind of changed me to have more of a voice. Because he passed. So Christmas morning at like 6:30. So I was there with him for a little while, and I prayed, and I told him I'll come see you. But they called me. He had passed Christmas morning. So, yeah, so that really affected me.
Year?
It was in 96, 95 or 96. And that's been a long time. And it still affects me.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like,
you'd known him since you were 13.
Yeah. I felt like I could have done better. So anyway, then, there you go with that. So they're like, well, we don't have any money to do anything. I'm like, okay, well, so, it's like a pauper's grave kind of thing. And I'm like, really? So I have a little headstone that I got him because I went to that one of those places. There's a bunch right there. So I got him a little headstone, and I was the only one there, me and my family, for him. And again, I just felt like I could have done so much more. Like, I didn't know he couldn't see. Well, he had glaucoma. I mean, I know this is kind of like extra stuff, but I'm why didn't somebody say, hey, if we can do something, let's help him so he can at least have his sight, And that's just where it kind of, I mean, I know.
Was it diabetes or what?
I honestly, I don't remember if he had diabetes. But I just feel like I think that's always just stayed with me. Like, I could have done more. Maybe I should have.
To been an advocate for him.
Been an advocate. Maybe, where is your family? Like, I think by that time though, like, he was telling me he wanted me to take him to Houston and he would find him. He wanted me to drive him. And I'm like, he was already on like drip and stuff. I'm like, I can't take you to Houston, I mean, what are we going to do just to try? I wish I could have. If I knew where to, I would have. Knew a destination,
a point, right?
I don't know that I could have taken him, but we could have at least gotten the family to come in or something, like, I don't know where that disconnect with him and his family was either. So that was kind of a lost, like, we didn't know. So there's a lot of things like that. Now, I will say I did meet his mom, and so I do know he had his mom and his sister, but that was when I was like 12. We met them. He was like, oh, take me to see them because they're in town. But I didn't like sit down and ask her questions.
Yeah.
Like, where are you? Where's his, I didn't ask any questions. And yeah, by that time it was like too late. So, but yeah, it's just like a very, I guess.
So mysterious.
Yeah. I think that's where I left it. It was like, everything was just, I mean, I was young and I asked my mom, but she was just like, oh, this is just a friend and we're just trying to help him out. So like, she didn't really get or if she had information, she kind of forgot, So I kind of feel like we dropped the ball a little bit on that. And it makes me kind of upset, to be quite honest. But so I still think of him, and I think that's why it affected me so much, because I almost felt like that was an adult version of what I should have done, versus what I didn't do. But I'm trying to make up for it still.
Wow.
Yeah, but I've had other, obviously, deaths that have affected me. But I mean, it's I guess people in my life and family that they mean the world to you, but you were there as much as possible. And I think that's where this comes in. Like, maybe we weren't there as much as we could have been when he needed us.
Or being as present in those moments.
Right.
And I think often we look back and we reflect and think we could have done more, but
yeah,
I
know. And I think just kind of losing touch, I would like to think, and I'm sure we would have, if we hadn't lost touch with him, maybe we could have helped him a little bit more navigate, because he lost his house. Like, I don't know what happened to anything.
What happened?
And it wasn't like, I mean, it was like what he could have, it wasn't anything fancy, of course. But it was still his, it was still his stuff. And what happened to it, we have no idea.
Like you don't know if he was in the military or if he had kids or.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
the story behind the man.
Yeah.
So still.
Right. Like, I had little pieces of it. Very nice.
I'm sure if you did research now, though, you don't think so? Like,
I've tried.
Because in those days, you couldn't just look somebody up on Facebook. No. You couldn't just, you had to call a landline. You had to drive over to a place and find, you'd have to knock on a door.
Right.
And that's
I
how
did.
Well, that's how you connected. But those are hit or miss topic. Those are hit or miss means now, right? Now it's like you just look up birth certificate, death certificate, marriage certificate, right? Those are the little investigator things you look up now, and easy to pull up. But there's got to be more to the story. That's what you have. I need to see this screen.
I know. Me too. I need to see the finished version.
And I'm sure he's got family that you could. I don't know.
All I know is he said they were in Houston. I'm like, oh my goodness.
And I'm sure they would tell you stories, right? Like.
I've looked on Facebook just to try and see if I could. I mean, there's really, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to talk about this later.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. Okay. If you were to die today, it's not getting easier.
I know.
If you were to die today, who's
crying everything?
who's the one person you'd call?
Oh, it's just one.
Just
It'd
one.
be my kids. Ooh. Well, I don't want to say one or the other.
I
then they're
know.
gonna say,
Okay, so
"Hey."
well, who's the more likely to answer?
The more likely to answer would be my daughter. Maybe I would do a group call.
A group
How about
call.
that? Yeah.
On Facebook Messenger to your group.
Exactly, to the group.
Okay.
Yeah, to my kids for sure.
What would you say to each of them?
Live your best life and be happy. I mean, you can go through life and struggle, but you have to enjoy your moments where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think I feel that deeply because I know it's hard sometimes when you're in ruts to find, those glimmers, but you still have to be grateful and just be happy where you are. So that's what I would try and stress to them.
Okay. Other than your kids, if you had one last call, who would you call?
Maybe my brother.
You have a brother?
I do have a brother. He's a fireman.
How many are you?
It's just two of us.
Two?
Yeah.
Are you older or he's older?
I'm older.
Okay.
Yeah. I
That's
guess I would call my brother, yeah.
Are you close?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, we're 6 years apart.
Okay.
So it was always kind of like,
So that's why you got the business named after you. What's his name?
Yeah.
Claudio?
No, Marco.
Marco.
Yeah, I think growing up, I mean, I love my brother, of course. But, you're at different stages. And, he always wanted to hang out.
16.
And I was like a teenager. I'm like, no.
He's 10. You're 16.
Yeah. So I was like, no. I mean, I would take him places, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure he's the one you had to take to the movies if you had a boy or something. And
yeah, I mean, we did. It was fun to do stuff. I always enjoyed doing things, but yeah, I mean, I think since we've had kids, obviously, you kind of
right, your families take you apart.
Yeah. So
What would you tell him?
I would tell him I'm proud of him. Yeah, I'm proud of him. He's a really break time. Yeah, I would probably call my brother because I don't tell him this often, but I'm so proud of him because he's worked very hard. He's a great dad,
Mm-hmm.
and he's everybody loves him. He's one of those people that everybody loves Marco, and I'm just really happy at the person that he's become.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's all.
He can command a room.
Oh yeah, he's a big guy.
Mm.
So I mean, growing up, we had our little moments, of course. When I was mad at him, and I'm sure he was mad at me, but like normal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think he really came into his own, and I just remember, you're a teenager and I'm like, oh my God, you have to go do something. I was trying to always push him out to do something. But once he started, he didn't stop.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, yeah, he's definitely, he caught that from us too. So, but yeah, he's a really good, like I said, dad and husband. So I'm just very proud of him.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So he graduated from Jeff too?
He went to Jeff as well. Yeah.
What year did he graduate?
Ooh, he's going to get mad at
93?
2 or 90. No, it must have been. I'm 6 years older than him, so maybe 94.
94?
Yeah, it might have been 94.
He might have graduated with my cousins.
Maybe so.
Jeff. Did he play football? He was a big guy?
No, he didn't.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what he did in high school because I was at UT. But I just know he had a lot of friends. So
Yeah.
He was always real happy-go-lucky, so everybody gravitated to him. So but he's always been that way. So
Uh-huh.
I'm happy to see him, as an older sister.
Yes.
I'm happy to see all the things that he's done with his life, and he works really hard. So, and he's, like I said, a great dad, loves his kids, and he does everything for them. So I think that kind of runs in our family,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't get to. I mean, he's busy and I'm busy, but that's the other person I would call just to let him know that. Because we don't have a lot of opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's nobody in this world
Mm-hmm.
who's more like you biologically DNA. I mean, he's
That's true.
they're
Yeah.
siblings.
Yeah, you're right. And that's what I try and stress to my kids. I'm like, you know, no matter where you are, you always have each other's
other.
back. You better be there. I'm going to be
Yes.
from the other side. I'm going to be getting mad at you guys.
I say this every time. It's when we go, the one thing we want, and most my grandparents is they just want their kids to get along and have each other's back.
Right.
And that's probably one of the hardest things to do is get along with your siblings for some families.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But that's what I stress to my kids all the time. And, you know, I have that in here for him, even though we're kind of like doing our own stuff. But I think he knows that. So if not, we'll share some of this without the crying. So he'll know that.
We'll send it to him.
Yeah.
Marco.
That's right. Shout out to my brother, Marco.
Oh, I have a big old firefighter poster of him or something on the.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. That would be great.
How do you know if something's divine?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. This might sound weird, but I have some moments in my life where I feel like this is divine. You know, like I don't know how it's not. And that's been at different phases in my life where I just kind of feel like there's a higher power going on here. And for a long time, well, in my 20s, and I know this is probably for everybody in their 20s, you know, you're unsure. You don't know how things are going to go. You're anxious. You're worried. And, you know, that follows us. But at the same time, I think with different moments in my life when I realized, gosh, like, how did I get here and how did this happen? You know, like, I'm so grateful that it had to have been some divine intervention, because I really don't know how some things have happened in my life that have just come about. And I'm like, wow, where did that come from? You know, and it's stuff maybe I prayed for and it doesn't happen right away, you know, but you have an idea and a vision and it's in your heart and you're praying for something. And then, you know, maybe a week later, maybe a few years later, you're like, I can see how all these things that I've gone through maybe have put me in a position to be here for this, you know. It wasn't the right time, and that's where I really believe that, and I really feel like that's happened to me several times in my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah. I think it's just we're all connected, and I have that feeling of connection to that higher power. And I do. It's funny that I see the Virgin Mary over you, because. And I might have written this down, but I do visit the grotto almost weekly. I have to go this week, because I pray, and I just ask for, you know, for me to do the best that I can. I pray for my kids. I mean, I obviously pray for our community and. And what that means, you know, in actuality, I don't really know, but I just, you know, I'm just kind of putting that out there in the world and in the universe. And, you know, I just pray for the things that we all do, you know. It's kind of universal, but I've just had moments where I feel like my prayers have been answered, or I've had signs that have come back to me. And I know it. I mean, it sounds maybe weird to some people you haven't had that, but I also have heard from a lot of people that they feel the same, like, you know, they've gotten different signs, whatever that is for them, where it's like, I've asked for something and where did that come from, you know?
Right.
So I had one example is I was going through a rough time. This is probably before my illness. And I was driving to my mom's house with the kids. And old beat up, I had a Toyota Sienna, I think, you know.
I love those vans.
I think I got it when it was already like 8 or 10 years old. Like, it was
older.
A very used vehicle. Not clean. It had the bottles, you know.
Everything.
Everything was
all
just,
the kids' messes on the back.
It was probably way due for cleaning inside and out. And there, all of a sudden, and this was like in an area of town that it's usually like kind of, you know, I don't want to say gross, but you know, like you wouldn't have this.
Right.
we were driving down, it was Donaldson or St. Cloud, or like one of those streets. And all of a sudden we were like in a floral. It was like we were in a flower shop.
Yeah, botanical gardens.
Not even botanical, like a true floral shop. Like it was intense roses, intense. And I remember like, I looked around like, wait, what's happening? You know, like I was looking around like, were we passing through an area? Like what was happening in the area? Nothing. You know, it wasn't like coming out of the AC or anything. I looked at my daughter and like, do you smell that? And so she smelled it too. And, you know, it was just one of your senses, but where did that come from?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, thank you. This is my sign. You know, everything's going to be okay. So just little moments like that. But that was a huge thing. It wasn't big. It wasn't like I had a dream and I woke up and maybe it was in the dream.
Well, then your daughter smelt it too.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of things like that. And I almost started writing a book on them because I'm like, I'm going to forget all these things. But a lot of things like just like that have happened. And maybe to others we're like, oh, you know. But to me, that was definitely a reality that happened to me. And I just, you know, I said, thank you.
How old was your daughter?
She was probably already like 6 or 7. I mean, maybe she was a little older. I'm trying to think when I had that seat and probably about that age. So, you know, I just have moments like that and it just makes me feel like connected. And, you know, we are, like I said, I feel like we're all connected. But that's just kind of a different level where I feel like it's a sign for me, like, you know, we're all here and you know that I'm here. And, you know, it just gives me a sense of peace and it makes me feel a little bit better. Like we're not just all like, you know, thrashing about, you know, like there is some method to the madness of that. I'm trying to think of the right word for that, but
there's some divine connection.
It is a connection. And like I said, I've had so many of those things that have happened that I just like every time something like that happens, I smile. I'm like, thank you for the reminder. You know, it's in my mind. I'm like, thank you.
I know you're there.
Yeah. Like I needed that reminder because sometimes you kind of get away from it and then you're like, okay, yeah, that's right. Like we're okay.
Yes.
And I think that's where it puts me in a sense of like, you're okay. Like you're starting to stress out. You're okay. So that helps me a lot. And that's just part of the faith. And
the faith. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to go into. Have you always had faith this strong?
I think I have.
Do you think it was because of your as a kid or?
I think we're all spiritual. I mean, we all come from something, right? So I think we all have that in us. Now, whether we practice that's a different story. Maybe you're in that direction and you kind of lose that, you know, maybe change directions and some people come back and others don't.
Right.
But I've always just kind of had a very strong spiritual sense about, I guess, this divine connection that we have. I mean, we went to church, but I don't go to church that often like I should, but I just feel like it's here. I feel like church is more in your heart and in your mind and how you're handling yourself and how you treat others. That's like my that's like my church. I still go to church, you know, I'm not against it, but I've always, you know, since I was little, I would pray and I would pray how I thought you were supposed to. Like this is little, you know, like we went to church and then I don't even know where I got this idea. So I'm at the bed, maybe with a book, you know, your bed and you have your hands like in prayer and you say your prayers and then you do the sign of the cross and then you jump into bed. I don't know where I got that from, but I would do that for a while. And then I think when I got older, I'm like, okay, I'm just in bed. I'm tired. I'm just gonna do it here. So I've always had that. And I would always say my prayers at night because I felt like if I didn't, something bad was going to happen. You kind of have that guilt thing because you're little, you know. And then I got over the guilt thing. I'm like, I'm just praying for me because I know that helps, gives me some sense of connection and, like I said, peace. About where you are and about life and about this world that we're in. So I do think that helps me. And like I said, you know, we all, I think, kind of need to be reminded of that root. And it's just kind of like internal. To me, it's like an internal thing. But
it's a journey.
It is a journey, and I've always just, like I said, been in that realm, like just in prayer for myself, and it's not as a show to anybody else. It's just for me, you know. And I think that's really all it needs to be. So, but I did enjoy at St. Paul's when we would go to church. That was, to me, kind of fun.
Did they have a children's mass or like a children's liturgy?
I think they did. Yeah, they'd had it for different groups.
I know St. Matthew's or some of the bigger ones have it. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, and I really enjoyed St. Paul's, and it was a Catholic education, so you don't get around that. And like I said, I'm not real.
You're not at every Sunday church.
I'm not. I'm just more, like I said, how I present myself and how
you said you go to the grotto and you do it.
That to me, that's mine. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy going, and I like to take the flowers, and I like to do my candles, and I like to take, my rosary. So that's
how you connect.
That's how I connect. Yeah. And I love doing that. So.
We've talked about quite a bit, and we've gone through multiple seasons of your life, seasons of your business, and I often reflect back on the seasons of my life, and I like breaking things up into seasons. So does the Bible. Is there a parable or a verse or anything you find yourself going back to in this season that you're in?
I'm not good at parables or verses. I don't know. I mean, I think in talking in seasons, your seasons change. But each one has its own beauty in it.
Yes.
And I just feel like I've been through many different seasons for many years. But again, you just have to really find, this is where I was, and I had that beauty, and I was able to learn and grow there. And now the different season of where I am now, and maybe I'm speaking more in age, being able to, I really hope that I can help somebody like others help me. Like I really looked up to a lot of people when I was young, and I just want to be there as a support to others, and I'm hoping that that's my season as I continue to grow and get older, that I can be more present for people who might need that, because I just feel like everybody's so busy, and not everybody has the opportunity to truly be like a mentor, have the time or the space or the energy. And so I pray that I can, maintain my energy and my health, et cetera, so that I can continue to maybe just be present and do what I can do to help whoever I can help.
Perfect. Are you promoting anything?
I'm not really promoting anything. Everything that we're doing, we do our best to post that on our Instagram page, Condra_Artista for Instagram. We do have Facebook that for some people who have Facebook. Really promoting San Antonio is what, in addition to our talent, what we try and do on our Instagram page is promote events that are happening in San Antonio, whether it's...
you host mixers, right?
We do host mixers.
I've been invited to a few of your mixers.
That's right. So the mixers are really a nice way, if you don't even know anything about this and you just want to come and see and meet people, and like, I'm kind of interested in film, is there anything that maybe I can do? I think it's a good way to just meet and, mingle, and just, it never hurts to meet somebody new and to learn something new. And we also have, I think it's a film slam coming up. So you can find all these, not just on Condra Artista where we share, but Alamo City Studios shares. I'm trying to think. The San Antonio Film Commission, San Antonio Film, they will share a lot of things happening. So I think for anybody interested in any of this that we spoke about today, most people will have the Instagram to follow all these different groups, and that way you don't miss anything happening. And maybe one weekend doesn't work, but the next weekend does, so you go to that event, because I try to be as present at places as possible. We can't be everywhere, but you will have different groups and different organizations that are there promoting, whether it's films, San Antonio, things that are happening in San Antonio. That's where you can find it for sure.
Okay. Awesome. And your social media that you've shared on there was one more time for
Condra Artista.
Condra Artista.
Yeah. And like I said, we've been I think when I came on board, I guess social media was a thing, but I think we kind of picked it up a little bit more. So it's nice for me. I really enjoy sharing all the people that are actively working, and it's all ages. And I have some cute kids I have to post in a little bit that they booked it at the Alamo. That they're at the Alamo. Now that job, it isn't a big job per se, but it was just to, you can come to the Alamo for free. We're going to give gift cards to the kids that are here, and it's just like a little video, like touristy video that they run there at
really
the Alamo.
warm to introduce.
Exactly, and it's for fun, and so the dads are with them, and it's just like a fun outing. And that's the other thing. As far as now you're not going to get me to stop talking.
No, keep going. This is good.
But what I honestly love, not just even the actors, but I love to see the families come together and play together. Right?
Yes.
Because
it's a full picture.
It is, and it's the families enjoying time with their kids learning something new, the parents are learning something new, and they're just like laughing and having fun together, and it's such good memories. And that's also what I really enjoyed about doing this with my kids. They were a little older, but I'm like, what a nice thing to do, and a blessing that you can do something fun. It shouldn't be stressful, just to go out and do something that you enjoy. So that is, we try and do those kinds of posting on our Instagram page. But like I said, we also posted, there's some classes that are going on. We like to post those or share. Like we might not be doing classes per se, Condra Artista, but a casting director will say, hey, I'm doing this class. We post it. In Austin, they were doing a class. We posted it. So it's like a little, we try and just have a network going of connection and really just sharing what's happening so you can be a part of it.
That's so awesome. I love the energy and the vibe that we got to get San Antonio up and going.
Yes.
I have to ask one last question. If a student wants to become an actor and if somebody wants to become an agent or wants you to be their agent, what's the best path for them to go?
Well, so it depends where they are. If this is something really new, what I tell a lot of the people are like, this just sounds amazing and I want to do it. If you follow all these groups on Facebook, and there's a lot happening. So a lot of times productions might say, hey, we just need extras on set. It doesn't pay much, but if you have the time and if it sounds fun, it should be fun.
Right.
And if the timing works out, like we have people who work, and I'm talking about maybe in there, even the 20-year-olds or even high schoolers, they might be working, but I'm not doing anything Saturday. Sure, I'll go.
Yeah.
I think that gives you a really good taste of what's happening on the set. Really just absorbing everything going on. You see the actors working, you see the production, you see the camera guy setting up, you see all the different things that are happening. And I think that gives you a really good idea. Oh, I really like this. Because for a lot of actors, to be honest, you're just sitting around. You have to kind of sit and wait.
Hurry up and wait.
It's hurry up and wait. It could be 10 hours. It could be 12 hours. So you really have to, it's a special person that's like, I'm totally willing to be here. Like, this is cool.
Yes.
Some people might try that and say,
that's not worth my time.
I might not want to do this. But that's a good place to find out. That's a really good way to.
Right.
And then you do one and you like it. Oh, I'm going to do another one. And then you kind of start, that's kind of how you start building. Like, I'm not, you're not professional. You're not completely green. You know what's happening.
Yes.
You can then take a class, get some training. All our actors do need to have a professional headshot. And it is a little bit of money, but that's already kind of, know that this is what you want to do. You're investing in yourself. So we just kind of work around that, navigate around that.
Is there a link or a website that they apply to ask you, or is there a class they have to take? They take that class and
no, I mean, our website for people who are ready, if they have the headshot and they have all that, they can go to our website. It's www.condraartista.com. They can upload a headshot and they can upload a resume. Typically, we'll get that and then we can reach back out. So we'll pull that up.
Okay.
And, sometimes we'll look at that information and we can say, let's talk further. Other times we'll see the information. It's like, I still want to reach out to them and say,
right.
I'm sorry,
Maybe
you might
take this
not
class or
be ready yet, but go do some of these things, work on getting a headshot. You can even call the a lot of the high schools that do all these films. Sometimes, they need actors. UTSA does a lot of films. They always are looking for people to just come on board.
Right.
So I feel like if you really want to do this more on a professional level, you're willing to go out and reach out and say,
right.
Hey, do you have anything I'd really like to be on set?
Well, anybody who wants to be professional should want to learn more about it.
Right.
Regardless of if they think they're ready or not.
Yeah, I really want to just dive in and see what everybody's doing. What can I do? What can I bring to the table? And then from that point, but like I said, that's when we have actors, they usually will send that through our website. So from there, that's where we reach out. And
when you say resume, you mean things that they've done in the past, commercials they've been in, not hey, I worked at the corner store over here for 3 months, and then I also was an intern at Palo Alto.
That's right. So it is an acting resume, and for some parents sometimes will fill out the form and. My kid wants to do this. Well, it depends on how old your kid is. If they're 4, and if I have if I send a resume, obviously it's just what do they enjoy? Oh, they're in swimming. They're they've done a theater class maybe, or they take dance. That's usually what their resume looks like. If they're 13 through 17-ish, what is their resume? That's their height, their weight. Again, have they done any theater? So it's more still acting resume, but we have some that it's more sports. It's more, musical. So things like that, but they're really interested in this. Okay, well, I see your resume, but get some training. There's still a little few pieces. So it's different levels of different ages. For our adults, they need to have an acting resume. Yeah, because a casting director reaching out, they're not going to want to bring somebody on board that's never done this before, right, and they're like,
they want to work with somebody who's professional. And
yeah, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know when they're talking to you, different terminology. You need to have the
fundamentals.
You need to know how to. Bring what they need for whether that's improv, and that's there's different avenues too. Is it improv? Is it dramatic? Have you had training on different methodology? I botched that word, sorry. So there's a lot of facets to that are involved in just being prepared.
Right.
But it never hurts to ask. So I have a lot of people that will reach out I've never done this before, and so we try our best to just respond and say, this is what you can do. But for any person really looking for representation, just that they understand that agencies will not, you don't have to pay to have an agent. So agencies will make money based off what you book. So there are some, I don't really know that they're out there anymore, but I guess there could be. Oh yeah, if you pay us $200, we'll try and do some stuff for you, or they still have those. I remember this when my kids were young. I think it was a hotel, and Disney reps are going to be there, and oh yeah, we want your kid, and it's $3,000, that kind of thing.
I see.
It's
no.
Pay
at the door, and then
well, so they bring you in, and then they give you all this what we do and this and that, and then you leave, and then they call you, and it's okay, yeah, we want your kid to come on board, but it's $3,000 for this program, or I've heard more than that. I'm no.
Jeez.
So that's kind of on the just making, they're just pocketing money for that. But so a true agency isn't, they make money off of commission and percentage of what you book. Yeah. So we need people, that's what I'm saying, ready to go.
Right. Well, and you also want to present talent that's ready, because then it's a slash on the quality of talent you're bringing.
Right. So it has to be a win-win, and we're here to support you, and you need to be prepared to go to this next level.
Right.
So.
Well, Claudia, you are so relatable in an industry that seems so far away to get into, and I think how you broke it down, and the fact that you're from the neighborhood, the fact that you're an entrepreneur, a Latina entrepreneur, Hispanic who started.
I'm glad that you invited me, because this is a good opportunity for me to kind of start. This is kind of a little bit of a new thing, or it is a new thing for me, and I'm happy to do this, and I think this is going to help others, and I hope it helps others, because that's my whole goal and reason for being here.
If you can reach one person.
Yeah, to be here with you, because I so believe in what you're doing, and this is definitely a new way to reach the kids that can't, or young adults that maybe aren't taking those classes, or maybe are not able to have somebody drive them to such and such location, to kind of get or do workshops or just see different things. So I think this is a good place to do that. So I wish you much success, and just keep going, because I think this is really great.
Claudia, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been really nice. I enjoyed it.
Me too.